We're live. Hello, folks. I'm just on a little bit early just to make sure everything's okay with our connection, etc. And oh goodness, hang on, I'm still dressed from outside. Let me get that off. Oh, overcoats and hats. There we go. Right. There's Bojack Harkness. Just in there, Bojack from the shops and grabbing a couple of supplies and stuff. How you keeping? Nice to see you. Everything's I've got a green light for sound. Hope you can hear me okay. And yeah, Bojack, how you doing? We're there, aren't we? We'll get cracking in a couple of minutes once we hit 9 o'clock. And if anybody's out there in the meantime, say hello. And yeah, we finally made it, haven't we? I don't know if you can see, I've stuck these are the different volumes that I've put up a wee picture. We filled 4 of these rather thick notebooks with notes, and come close to filling another one, to be honest with you, or starting another one, which would have been a bit strange. Bear with me 1 wee second, folks. I have forgotten one key thing. I'll be right back. Watch out, balls. Oh, there we go. I suppose that's why we pop on early, isn't it? Just to make sure everything's okie dokie. It's outrageously hot here at the moment. This is we're heading towards the middle of October in Northern Ireland, and our climate has just completely changed. It's ridiculous. Starting to feel like another country. There we go. Ready and waiting. There we go. There's 9 o'clock. Bojack. I suppose we'll just get going then, shall we? Hello, everybody. Welcome to Doc Sloan Science Fiction Station with our Dune book club. And I hope everything's running okay there. And today we're going to have a look. We're heading towards the back of the book. This is we're calling it chapter 51, I suppose, but in terms of what we've dealt with. And we also had a chapter 0, if you think about it. So this is our 52nd, probably full episode on Dune. Most book clubs that I've been looking at online tend to rather sadly stop before they hit the appendices. Once they hit the appendices, they don't go near them. And I think that's a big. The appendices are part of the novel. If you stop reading Dune, basically as you hit Appendix 1 and go, I'm finished, you have not finished the novel. This is a novel, and it's a stylization, if you like, but these appendices are part of the story, and they fill things in for us, you know. So it's interesting that I saw somebody try to, can I read Dune in 24 hours? And they went for it, but they didn't finish the book. And they stopped at the appendices, and I think it is a jumping off point, I think, for a bunch of readers who only read the first book, if you like. There are various jumping off points within the Dune saga, I suppose. And if we abandon the series really with Dune, then we'll never ever understand the whole point of this. And just to let you know, guys, I've always said I was wondering. Would my copy of Dune survive this? To answer your question, it has, but it's not going to live much longer. I've got a full split in the book, and I try to be reasonably respectful for it. And this page is going to fall out very shortly, so I'm going to tape it up, hopefully. And this is the copy of the book that will go with these notebooks, you know. So if anybody's out there, could you just give me a wee quick? Could somebody give me a wee quick? I can hear you, because I'm not sure that my green light is static on here, and I'm not sure if anybody can hear me, which would be not good. So if anybody could just give us a little, yes, we can hear you, Doc, that's okay. That would be really appreciated. Thank you, Cynthia. I can hear you. Greetings, Doc. Hi, Cynthia. How are you? I was. Thank you very much. Just I wasn't. Normally, this wee thing fluctuates down at the bottom, like a meter reading, if you like, and it's just static. So. And there's Bojack saying, clear for me. Thanks very much, guys. I do appreciate it. Before we get started today, I'd just like to say I'm a little bit concerned for one of our group, who's somebody, Chaya Rivka, obviously out in Israel, with the madness that's going on out there. I don't know if any of you keep in touch with her. My understanding is the internet is down in Israel at the moment, and I have sent a wee email to Chaya, just asking that she's okay, and I hope she is okay at the minute with all of that. So if any of you hear from her, or I just lots of good thoughts towards Chaya. Basically, I hope she's okay, and if she's about tonight, please say hello. Though I doubt that's the case. But just thinking of Chaya at the minute, who's been a big contributor to this little community that we've got going. Oh, so just saying, keeping her in her thoughts at the minute, folks. And I'll not really go on about anything else to do with that madness that's going on out there at the minute. We're here for a book club, so it's just that it might have affected one of our little community, and I sincerely hope she's okay. Well, let's get the book open, folks. We're going to the end. And I said, if anybody's out there, any wee comments, as always, folks, let me know. Say hello. Any wee ideas? We don't have too much to run through today. The last two appendices are Appendix III and Appendix IV, pretty short, and they're very interesting. Let me get that wee light on there for that book. There we go. Book paperweights. There we are. Now, let's have a wee look. So let's get cracking. Appendix 3, first of all, we have a report on Bene Gesserit motives and purposes. And I've written whose, but as I said, I read this in a linear fashion for this book club. But of course, the answer is Lady Jessica's. We'll get to that straight away. So no epigraph, but what we have is a little introduction to this. Pardon me. And we're told that here follows an excerpt from the Summa prepared by her own agents at the request of the Lady Jessica immediately after the Arrakis affair, as it's euphemistically called here. And we're told the candor of this report amplifies its value far beyond the ordinary. That's my appalling handwriting there. So that's kind of interesting. It's an excerpt, so it's not complete. These are the Lady Jessica's own agents. What that means, who they are, is interesting enough to speculate on. The candor of the report, the honesty of it, if you like, amplifies its value far beyond the ordinary. Okay, well, let's see. So that's our little introduction to this. Here we go. Because, now, I'll just say this, I think this chapter is fascinating before we tear into it, this little appendix. And it ends with what I call the Great Mystery of Dune. And we'll see if you agree with me on it or not when we get there. So, because the Bene Gesserit, this is all about the Bene Gesserit, their motivations and their purposes. So let's see what we can find out. Because the Bene Gesserit operated for centuries behind the blind of a semi-mystic school while carrying on their selective breeding program amongst humans, we tend to award them with more status than they appear to deserve. Okay. So analysis of their trial of fact on the Arrakis affair betrays the school's profound ignorance of its own role. Now, just very quickly, I just put C-Wiki here. Trial of fact is a wee bit different in different countries, I suppose. What happens at Wikipedia? Trial of facts, for example. I just said to look up Wiki here. So I'll just read you the British kind of thing under, well, not British, this would be English and Welsh law. So trial of the facts under the law of England and Wales regarding insanity and unfitness to plead. Once a court has determined that the defendant is subject to a disability that prevents the trial progressing, there may be a trial of the facts in which the truth of the allegations against the defendant, as opposed to their guilt or innocence of a crime, is to be determined. The court's options are to order an absolute discharge, a supervision order, or a hospital order with or without a restriction order. Trial is not a criminal trial to determine guilt or otherwise. It is limited to ensuring that the interference with the liberty of the defendant, consequent upon which whatever order might be made, Following an adverse finding can be justified by reference to what can be proved about what he or she did, even if the intention might have been clouded by delusion or other incapacity. I think that's quite interesting. So we're not really out to assign blame here. We're trying to get to the facts. Excuse me. Dialectic approach, I think, is what I would go with. If you wanted to, that would be the Greek type of argument to get to the facts, if you like, the dialectic argument. But it betrays the school's profound ignorance of its own role. And I think this is a very interesting point. So the Bene Gesserit, we're told, it may be argued that the Bene Gesserit could examine only such facts as were available to them, and had no direct access to the person of the prophet Muad'Dib. But the school had surmounted greater obstacles, and its error goes deeper. Now that's quite interesting, for a couple of reasons. Can be argued that the Bene Gesserit could examine only such facts as were available to them. Now this is the Mentat's problem, isn't it? And overall, I think ultimately this is the problem with yeah, it is the Mentat's problem. Insufficient data. They can only examine such facts as were available to them. You never know everything about a situation. You can try and find out as much as you can, but it's the things that you don't know, if you like, that are vital, that are critical to this thing. There's Ryan the Scar saying, "Cheers, everyone." Hi, Ryan. Thanks for joining us. By the way, thank you very much. Some of you lovely little comments, by the way, just about where getting to the end. I've written up on this chapter, Terminus S. This is the end. So thank you, Ryan. So yeah, so I would take that the Bene Gesserit's problem is the same as the Mentat's problem. Insufficient data, insufficient facts, as it's being put here. And facts is a word that's used in this chapter, but also had no direct access to the person of the prophet Muad'Dib. But now the next bit that's interesting about what we just looked at, the school had surmounted greater obstacles. Okay, I've just written, well, what were they? So if it's even, I would say that the Arrakis affair was pretty full on, and they've got a universal super. So we're being told that they've dealt with stuff worse than this before, and I'm kind of curious. Wonder what that's all about. And its error goes even deeper. Oh goodness gracious, Chaya, shalom, shalom, Chaya. I'm so worried about you. Chaya, it's great to see you. And I hope you don't mind me expressing my worry. I promised myself. Oh dear. Excuse me. I would eat a Ferrero Rocher if you were okay. I'm very glad to see that you're safe, Chaya. Excuse me. I'm going to be back in 1 second, folks. Hang on. I'll just pause quickly. There we are. Sorry about that, folks. Cynthia, Chaya just saying, Cynthia, I'll catch up with your comment in a wee second. Thank you. I sent you an email about chapter 50 about half an hour ago. I'd sent you a wee email, Chaya, just hoping that you're okay with everything mad that's going out in Israel at the minute. And I'm very happy to hear that you're okay. Delighted. Oh, Cynthia is saying, do I understand correctly here that the trial of fact was done by the Bene Gesserit without Jessica's input, such that she feels the need to create her own additional report? That's a good question. Yeah, why does she feel the need to get her? Why does she feel the need to get? I think it's more Lady Jessica looking into the Bene Gesserit, isn't it? We get the sense that there's a Bene Gesserit report here, Cynthia. And whenever we get to it, I think the clue is, well, down a little bit, is when we talk about the Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohiam. We'll come to it a wee bit because we have a sort of contradictory thing there, and I think one is in relation to a deposition to Lady Jessica's inquiry, possibly, but the other one is suggesting that there's no note of this in her report. So there is it's possible that the Bene Gesserit was done without Jessica's input. She feels the need to create her own additional report. Yeah, I think that's the case, and I think it's maybe the character trying to sort things out. If you like, there's Ryan the Scar saying, Shalom Chaya, Cynthia, greetings Chaya, my best to you. Baruch Chaya saying, Baruch Hashem, my family and I are fine. Excellent. We've had the shelter a few times. My son and 100,000 have been called up for duty. All prayers are welcome. Thank you all, says Chaya. And Miles takes saying, cheers, Doc. Hope everyone is doing great. Hi, Miles. Well, our thoughts are with you, Chaya. And I'm really pleased to hear that you're all okay. Called up for duty. All prayers. But I'm appalled by everything that I've seen. Madness, isn't it? I'm so happy you're okay. My son has been called up for duty. Dear, oh dear. Well, I'm so delighted to hear you're all right. Okay, honestly, I've been very worried about you. Ooh, it's been a funny day here, folks. I'll tell you, a very funny day. It's just been a funny week, I think, in terms of everything, But yeah, the madness of mankind goes on, doesn't it? So the error goes deeper. And the other thing, I think, Cynthia, what you were saying there is, I don't know. We get a real sense that the Bene Gesserit aren't the sharpest tool in the box here. If you know what I mean, there's plenty of mistakes going on, and it almost seems contradictory to what I sort of think of them. If you see what I mean, I always think of them as being very clever, very efficient, smart. Staying in the shadows, all of this kind of thing. But yeah, let's see. The Bene Gesserit program, we're told, had as its target the breeding of a person they labeled the Kwisatz Haderach, a term signifying one who can be many places at once. So a lot of this stuff we're quite familiar with. In simpler terms, we're told what they sought was a human with mental powers permitting him to understand, and use higher order dimensions. And we're told that they were breeding for a supermentat. Super meaning above, if you like. A human computer with some of the prescient abilities found in guild navigators. And I suppose that's interesting, from the point of some of them. Some of the prescient abilities. It must be more than one. And I just really, a little question, what are they, I wonder? And just before we're told to attend to the facts carefully, I just wanted to say, so it seems that the question is, why would you breed such a thing? And the idea, I suppose, the Kwisatz Haderach being a weapon, the way we look, is an incredibly dangerous thing. But their goal here is someone with mental powers permitting him to understand and use higher order dimensions. A supermentat human computer with some of the prescient abilities found in the guild navigators. It's almost like an attempt to genetically cross the different skills, in a way, if you like, the different abilities of skills. And the question is still begets why. Why would they do this? And is it an attempt to take away the monopoly of the guild? I think, and also, why a man? And this little thing itself just got me asking, are there no female guild navigators? Why is that? a particular meal thing. And we particularly, as also just to add into that, when we were thinking about the nature of space, in the previous appendix, we're told that it's like a female aspect, you know. So we'll get onto these, attend these facts carefully. I'll just catch up with your comments there. There's not really much else to add. There's Chai just saying, Madison, cheers, Doc. Hope everyone's doing good. Chai saying, I'm worried for you all as well. Please be careful in the coming days and weeks. Very kind of you, Chai. You know, I'd say our problems aren't as bad as yours at the minute. But the world has gone silly, hasn't it? We pay for the, what was it, June would put it, we pay for the violence of our ancestors, don't we? But yes, as always, you know, it's how we end our program every night. Basically, I hope you're all safe no matter where you are. You know, look after yourselves, be safe, you know. What are the higher order dimensions that they seek? That's another question. If we think about space-time a wee bit, you know, at the minute we go with this kind of 3 dimensions of space, 1 of time. If we get into stuff like hyperspace, let me see. There we go. I don't know, Mishu Kaku, various people, odysseys through the 10th dimensions, the up to 11, I think, isn't it, in string theory, this kind of stuff. That's a good wee book. It's quite old, though. I dare say it's been pretty much updated. I don't know. Has anybody seen Megakuri? Is that what you call it? Let me just quickly see if I'm spelling it right. It's a thing on YouTube. Megakuri. Am I spelling this? Oh no, I'm not spelling it right. There we go. Hang on. I spelled it right. There you go. Let me see if I can just get this. Here we go. I'll go on to Megakuri. If anybody wants to have a wee look at this, I think I've mentioned it before. It's a game that allows you to move through, you know, move in extra dimensions. It's could only be done with computers. I was thinking that in terms of the higher dimensions that they seek, Chaya, that I get the sense that travel in space is linear in this universe. The films, and particularly the films, I think, have gone with the whole traveling without moving thing. But we all know that's not what happens in the book at all. You know, the navigators are able to, I suppose the way I put it was with the nature of galactic drift and prescience, are able to calculate much faster routes. But people actually have to travel from A to B in this universe. And I thought if we know we're science fiction, all this kind of thing, maybe it was to create access to something like subspace or superspace or ultraspace or you know, whatever you want to call it. That, you know, and time is also the other one. You know, mastery of time, more some interesting thing of more than one time dimension. You can really start messing with your head, can't you? Mastery of time, some more creative abilities using consciousness. Yeah, I suppose always the question is, I suppose, why would you want to mess with time? Except to have a bit of fun, you know. I put up a wee thing about I love messing around with tenses, and it's one of the ways that I teach my kids tenses, as yesterday, today, and tomorrow. You know, and I put up a wee thing of a Frank Herbert book publication. What's the word I'm thinking? A promotion thing from the 80s, and I put up a wee thing on Twitter saying, you know, I'll see you all there back in the 80s next week, this kind of thing. I like playing with tenses a lot, but it's a thing that I use to teach my kids about tenses in English, you know. But yeah, time, I don't know. This is a chapter full of mystery, and it ends with the biggest one. So they're all good questions. We're not getting many of them answered, though, are we? But what we're told is, so this is, I suppose, we've just got a bit of it. Yeah, the Bene Gesserit haven't really realized their mistake. Their mistake goes a lot deeper. And it's to do with this attempt at breeding this Kwisatz Haderach, but it's about their own role in the thing. Sometimes I wonder if that's kind of a bit like the how would we put it? The general semantic idea of the map is not the territory. But at the same time, if anybody understands it, if you have a map, it's a two-dimensional thing, and it can tell you that here's a territory, and you walk through it, but it won't appear two-dimensional to you. The map is not the territory. At the same time, you have to realize that if you're holding the map, you're somewhere in it yourself. And I always think of that whenever I used to play Minecraft. If you get the little paper maps that evolve around as you move about, you're always sort of in them at the middle, I think. Mastery of time, perhaps. There's a lot of problems with the Dune universe in terms of time. I think if you think about distance between planets and all of that kind of thing, but I suppose that was one of the few wee things that was brought up in the previous chapter. So yeah, and I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to read your email just yet, Chai. I'll maybe grab it quickly before the end of the episode and see what we have to say. So okay, here's the facts. I love facts. This is what we're being told we're getting here. Let's see. Now, attend to the facts carefully. Muad'Dib, born Paul Atreides, was the son of Duke Leto, a man whose bloodline had been watched carefully for more than 1,000 years. Okay. In terms of the Dune universe, that's nothing. The prophet's mother, Lady Jessica, was a natural daughter of the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen and carried gene markers whose supreme importance to the breeding program was known for almost 2,000 years. Okay. Twice the length. So I've written whose. And the other thing that I've made a note here really is that in a sense, all bloodlines are equally old, if you understand me. We're all descended from the same group of people, same group of humans originally. So if you're on this earth at this time right now, my bloodline, my genetic detail is as old as yours. Does that make sense? None of us are younger genetically than anyone else, I think. See, I was thinking about a couple of things like that. The one thing I'm really looking forward to getting towards is to the Bene Gesserit's ideas of breeding in Dune Messiah. I think, particularly where they're trying to negotiate for Paul Atreides' sperm, if you like, his genetic material. It's very interesting. So, our facts carefully. 1,000 years, 2,000 years for these. And I suppose, is this apart from really Paul, this is the first real open admission, I think, in the book that Lady Jessica is a natural daughter of the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. I wonder what that meant. Not genetically engineered, I had to go with, basically, I suppose. Pardon me. Carried gene markers supreme importance to the breeding program. It was known for almost 2,000 years. It's interesting if we look at the idea of the Harkonnens, and we look at the Atreides, the idea of the names, basically. And if we understand the timeline of the Dune universe, really, from the idea of, and I like to take it from Samuel Butler, basically, that the Atreides are the Atreides somehow long descended from the Atreides that we know, if you know what I mean. But sort of maybe a Greek set of families, but the idea that the Harkonnens, the way Frank tells us, he doesn't really give us a genetic past to them. He gives us that they're kind of professions, if you like. Certain types of soldiers in history, Mamelukes and things like this. If I can remember correctly, Mamluk, also spelled not slave soldiers, a member of the army of slaves established during the Abbasid era, for example, is one of that. Later on, political control over several Muslim states under the Ayyubid Sultanate. Mamluk generals used their power to establish a dynasty that ruled Egypt and Syria from 1250 to 1517. That's just quickly what's on the blurb there for Encyclopedia Britannica. But yeah, if you check them out, Mamluk, if you like, on Wikipedia, you can Some of these names that Frank suggests that are in the genealogical history, if you like, of the Harkonnens. So, but natural daughter, I get the sense that Jessica's genes, it's where do they come from? As much as who do they breed? Who's Jessica's mother? I suppose we need to ask. And the best guess, I think, is the Reverend Mother Gaius Helen O'Hame. I know that that's the way it goes in the Brian Herbert books, but it actually always did make sense to me, Cynthia saying, regarding higher order dimensions, perhaps the Bene Gesserit wanted to learn more about the phenomena and attendant problems of previous lives tapped into during the initials. So that's this little thing covering that there. During the initiation of the Reverend Mothers. I get the sense that we've got lots of different types of Reverend Mothers in this universe. We have the Reverend Mothers of the Sayadina, right? But we have the Bene Gesserit Reverend Mothers. We have these sorceresses that we were told about that the Bene Gesserit wanted to control. And I do agree. I think it's with the idea of having access to all these previous lives, if you like. It's access to knowledge and wisdom and experience, isn't it? And if we go with the idea that the Kwisatz Haderach is meant to open up that mail line, and provide all that access to the mail line of knowledge and memories and stuff, it's all a bit tricky and problematic when we look at it in detail. But to learn more about the phenomena, I would think that would make sense. If the guild have a monopoly on things and they keep their secrets and they control space travel, it could be that it's an attempt to break the monopoly of the guild, possibly, as well as take control of the throne. Because ultimately, as much as Paul Atreides is on the throne, Irulan is kind of there next to him in a funny way. Although she has no real power to wield this Kwisatz Haderach, if you like, that's the problem. They've lost control of the tool that they created. But yeah, that's a good point, Cynthia. It's open to speculation, but this is the thing I like about this. This is a chapter full of mystery, and it's supposed to be kind of giving us some facts and educating us a bit about what's happened, She was Bene Gesserit bred and trained, we're told, and should have been a willing tool. There's that word, of the prophet. We had a wee chat the other week about tools, didn't we? Everybody's a tool in this. Tool's an insult in this country, by the way. If you called someone a tool, you're a tool. It says you're an idiot. You're a bit of a buck idiot, as we would say in this country. But idiot's an idiot in Ireland, as I'm sure you know. But she should have been a willing tool of the prophet. The suggestion is that she's not. And of course, we'll get to see, how Jessica gets on. Jessica still remains an important character as we move on. But as through Dune Messiah and Children of Dune. It's as maybe we know, folks, that there's a conspiracy against Paul in the second book involving the Bene Gesserit. Again, was that what you were suggesting, Cynthia, way back a wee bit? That the trial of fact was done by the Bene Gesserit without Jessica's input would seem very likely, probably because she's been excluded from this. If you like, that would make sense to have her own report done, her own intelligence. So here we go. The Lady Jessica was ordered to produce an Atreides daughter. The plan to inbreed this daughter with Feyd Rautha Harkonnen. So Feyd Rautha Harkonnen is the nephew of the Baron. The idea to breed Alia would basically be the Baron's granddaughter with the Baron's nephew. So we understand ultimately that, I suppose, as much as we have Paul Atreides, it seems that at the heart of the Bene Gesserit breeding program is the desire to inbreed the Harkonnen genes. Which begs another question in a wee moment. So to inbreed incest, which is not supposed to be good for your genes, to inbreed this daughter with Feyd Rautha Harkonnen, nephew of the Baron Vladimir, with the high probability of a Kwisatz Haderach from that union. Um, Instead, for reasons she confesses never being completely clear to her. And that's pretty honest, isn't it? Why did you do this? I don't really know. I've put love next to it. I think that's the answer. The concubine Lady Jessica defied her orders and bore a son. Possibly another reason the Bene Gesserit don't want to include her in an analysis of this, if you like, that she's turned against them in a way. She's not under their control anymore. But excuse me, I get some precious fluids here. And it really, I don't know, this is the chapter that kind of brought the Bene Gesserit down a bit. Made them seem more human to me rather than, because they are very superhuman in this, aren't they? And arguably, I don't know, I always got the sense that a Bene Gesserit would lay waste to Sardaukar and things like that. You know, that they're extremely dangerous. Miles Teg 87 says, to comment on the idea that all bloodlines are equally older, I might be wrong. In a strict sense, yes, because we all come from the same primordial soup. But in the context of genetic and gene variants, I know, I suppose I do get that there are things that will appear over time, if you like, you know. But I just think that we're all equally old. And I'm no geneticist, man. As much as I'm a person who's curious about a lot of sciences. As a scientist, I'm pretty ignorant about most things, as I like to explain. I'm a computer scientist, and a few, as you know, many other things. But that's really what kind of scientist I am. So, as much as I take an interest, I have the scientific method. Yeah, I don't know. But I suppose it's the combination of traits, etc., that they're looking for, new genes and things. I was reading a wee bit the other day. I don't know if anybody's ever read about. There have been about 8 people with triple X double Y chromosome. Has anybody ever heard this? 49 with a 49. Hang on. Is it 39 chromosomes? There's a 47 chromosome. There we go. Hang on. Is that the one I was looking for? No. 47 syndrome. That 47 is the X double Y. Some of this is pretty interesting. Let me see if I can just find this on. That's not the one I'm looking for either. Wikipedia is not doing well with my search. It's giving me all the variants of the ones I was looking for. There it is. The triple X double Y syndrome is quite. I was reading about this the other day, for example. Let's just pop that in. There we go. If you have a wee look at that on Wikipedia, I think it's fascinating. It's an extremely rare chromosomal disorder in which a human male has 3 copies of the X chromosome, 2 copies of the Y chromosome, and is exceptionally rare with only 8 recorded cases. That's fascinating. It's a wee short article. If goes on and talks about all sorts here. I was reading it the other day from an interesting point of view, just if you know what I mean. There's so much nonsense about this day and age, unscientific rubbish about gender at the minute. It just does my nothing sometimes, you know. Turner syndrome, is that what it's called, Ryan? Thank you. I was mucking around just the other day, looking at different types of genetic diseases, variations of chromosomes and this kind of thing, you know. And you can see a wee karyotype of the syndrome there up on the page. It's an interesting article, and that led me on to look at is it the 47 chromosome one as well. Interesting. Not everything is. There's always an exception to the rule, isn't there? Let's just see Turner syndrome. Everything. Miles says everything continues to evolve as we do. I totally agree. And new genetic variants are always arising, as well as others are disappearing. Loss of function, gain of function, dominant, positive, negative mutations. Yeah. Ryan the Scar says, my daughter was expected to have this. I take it she didn't. Ryan, I would be very happy to hear. It's interesting. Everything about me is recessive genes, folks. Everyone in my family. I'm 6'2". I have red hair, not that you would notice anymore, but I used to have bright red hair. What you call copper, copper color top, as they say. Duracell is a nickname I used to have. And I have, of course, the blue eyes. I don't know. Sometimes people think I'm like a dirty fair or something, but I'm a redhead. Everyone in my family is short and has dark hair and dark eyes. Historically, there's a couple of women in my family. My grandmother is just short of 6 foot tall, a long glass of water, as they say. And the woman that raised my father would be his aunt. I have her chin. And she was wow, you should see that woman. That's Charlotte Sloan. A very, very well known woman around here. My daughters never get the expensive diagnostics when pregnant. We've the same thing with ours on all of this, not a lot of stuff. You'll have this and that and the other, blah blah blah. Everything. It's the same thing. Yeah, they all death, doom, and destruction. And let's his son's turned out fine, and he's a big lump of a lad. Doctors do like to worry you, don't they? I think it's a bit more, makes them seem, pardon me, it's like trying to make them seem more amazing. I think that kind of thing. But yeah, I've had a couple of doctors not too long ago. I've got to the point where the doctors that I've had here in Northern Ireland are idiots, and I haven't had a correct diagnosis in ages, to the point where I pretty much have to go do things myself. It's quite strange. I had 2 doctors get what was wrong with me completely wrong. My dentist got it. My dentist who's female, dentist who's female got it absolutely right. And hey, there you go. I got told off by my dentist for not. That was to do with my mouth and sort of just a few problems that I was having a wee while back. And both doctors completely misdiagnosed me to the point where the medication that was given made me severely ill, made me worse. It's a lot of doctors in this country. We've lost a lot of our doctors because they were from elsewhere because of this Brexit thing. And a lot of our so-called doctors, they're kind of like to be community figures. They're more interested in Jesus and this kind of thing and preaching to people than actually doing their goddamn jobs, Excuse my French. And they don't listen. They like to be authority on. They're not very, And I'm generalizing, which isn't fair. I mean, there's plenty of good doctors around here, but it seems to be that all the good medical professionals in this country are female. Which is a good thing, I think. There you go. I've got to find myself a female doctor, I think, rather than not having one at the moment. Ryan's got to be paid short of $1,000, and the result was maybe we should consider abortion. Dear, oh dear. She's now 8 and the healthiest girl. Excellent, yeah. If you want the child, take the risk, I think, I've worked, guys, I've worked with, I used to work with, when I was a lecturer, I used to run what's called Work Start and Skills Plus programs, mainly for young adults with Down syndrome and other young adults with severe disabilities, and but some mental, some physical. I don't know, but yeah, they were all. I love them. They're great. And even we consider trying to remove. Let's get rid of Down syndrome. This kind of thing. I don't know. Best job I ever had, by the way, looking at teaching these kids, young adults, sort of 14 to 18 kind of age, if you like. They were a great crack. I absolutely love them. Nicest job I've ever had. Taught me some stuff, I tell you. Smart bunch of kids. Miles Texas, for example, being able to digest milk from other animals is a gain of function mutation that spread across Europe from some Nordic tribe. Don't quote me on that, but bounded with white skin. Don't worry. It's I myself, I read around a lot of this stuff, Miles. You know what I mean? I'm no expert, and we talk about all sorts of science within science fiction, and there's all sorts of cookie theoretical scientific ideas. There's real science in it and speculative. And it's fine to go with it. Yeah, sometimes if I'm going to talk about something, I was saying this not too long ago. We did a wee chat about Xi Shin Lu's Oh goodness gracious! Was it Time of Earth's Past? Remembrance of Earth's Past trilogy. Such an awkward title. I think of the Three Body Problem books. I wanted to have a wee chat about the science and that, and I was just going, no, I'm going to have to get back to you. I'm going to have to do my research on that. And as much as I get the ideas, to chat intelligently about them and not sound like an idiot because they're so, Miles is saying not only mutations determine our genetic makeup, yes, also genetic mixtures, reproduction allows us to create new capabilities. What we basically do with farm animals, for example. Oh, I totally agree. Yeah. Selective breeding, also selective breeding is in this. I'm like 7 minutes behind on the stream, so sorry if I interrupt. I'm studying some computer science concepts, and if that's your area, you do understand a bit of genetics just with other names. We have some interesting ideas in computer science actually that do line up with genetics. Yeah. No, that's a weird thing. I don't. Folks, YouTube has taken control of the adverts and stuff, but I've always tried to kind of minimize them, and it ended up putting tons in. But I've asked it to give my viewers a balanced experience, and I don't really know what it's like to be on the other end of this, But I don't know. I need to do about 100 of these things before I earn them. There you go. So I do apologize always about the ads, but we're hoping to go back through all my everything. Once this book club's done tonight, we're going to do a wee bit of housekeeping with the station, and try and go back and maybe get as many, I suppose, try and take out a lot of those heavy adverts that they put in. I got to the point where I think I put up one set of my Dune videos without any adverts, and it just, so I think it was the complete ones possibly, But it can be a pain. Miles just saying, glad that everything is fine with your girl around. Yeah. Not everything. There's a lot of naysayers and doom and gloom people and all of this kind of stuff. And it's yeah. I think sometimes it's good to take a risk in life, take a chance. Someone says abortion, you don't do it. And you have a beautiful 8-year-old daughter for it. There you go. Well done, Ryan. Yeah, wife had a very similar problem with the doctors. My wife did not have a good time at all through pregnancy and that kind of thing, So the lady Jessica ordered. Oh, I've just covered that. Let me see. Instead, for reasons she confesses never have been completely clear to her. I'll go with love with that, by the way, folks. I'm sure you probably agree. Defied her orders and bore a son. So this this alone, we're told, should have alerted the Bene Gesserit to the possibility that a wild variable had entered their scheme. But other far more important indications. There are other. Sorry, I'll just check that there. That's my handwriting. But there were other far more important indications that they virtually ignored. They just didn't pay attention. And I wonder why that is. So we've got 5 of them that are going to be explained to us here. And as much as we know the Bene Gesserit, this is their purposes, their motives, this is their problems, really, if you like, the important indications that they ignored. So the first one we're told is, as a youth, Paul Atreides showed the ability to predict the future. Was known to have had prescient visions that were accurate, penetrating, and defied 4-dimensional explanation. So it does look like it does look like we have a 4-dimensional universe rather than an 11-dimensional universe or something like that. The whole dimension thing, folks, check out if you haven't read it. There is a new bar that's been set for science fiction. It is Xi Shin Lu, as far as I'm concerned. If anybody hasn't got into the 3-body problem, just get there if you can. Prepare to be amazed. Prepare to be blown away. It makes Dune look like the work of a child. Not to put Dune down. Do you know what I mean? It's on another level, and you've got a proper scientist at work. Ryan the Scar saying thanks, man. Is happy face. And there's Carlos Crisella saying, hey Doc and everyone. Hi Carlos. Thanks very much for joining us. Thank you for your lovely comments earlier today. Probably late last night for me. I couldn't sleep a wink last night. Excuse me. So there's a whole problem with the Bene Gesserit. The very first thing, if we go all the way back, Jessica has a daughter. At what point do they not come and check out, where's the son, Jessica? What have you done? At that point, it's 15 years go by, it seems, before the Bene Gesserit pay any attention whatsoever to Paul Atreides. And it seems that when they do, that's the beginning of our book, isn't it? No, this is the wee bit Cynthia, I think, was talking about. We had a wee mention about this earlier. So, as a youth, Paul Atreides showed the ability to predict the future. Why aren't they checking him out then? Why did they, as we're told, why did they virtually, it's not virtually, they pretty much did ignore this. Excuse me, folks. Number 2, we're told, this is the one here, the Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohiam, Bene Gesserit proctor, who tested Paul's humanity when he was 15, deposes that he surmounted more agony in the test than any other human on record. Yet she failed to make any special note of this in her report. So that was the bit that I thought was interesting. Her report would be the report that goes to the Bene Gesserit and doesn't make any special note of it. But we're told that this is a deposition. Who tested Paul's humanity, deposes that he surmounted more agony in the test than any other human on record. I'm not sure if that's the deposition to Lady Jessica's inquiry. It's vague, isn't it? Or, simply put, that she wrote this in her own Bene Gesserit report. He surmounted any more than, but buried it, just hid it casually. I think you could go with either way. But I do think the deposition here, I'm going to go with the deposition. She deposes that he surmounted more agony in the test than any other human. We've heard this before. I think probably that is a part of Lady Jessica's inquiry. So, 3. When the family Atreides moved to the planet Arrakis, Fremen population there hailed the young Paul as a prophet, the voice from the outer world. We're told that the Bene Gesserit were well aware that the rigors of such a planet as Arrakis, with its totality of desert landscape, its absolute lack of open water, its emphasis on the most primitive necessities for survival, inevitably produces a high proportion of sensitives. Okay. And I've written like who? And where are they? And if that's the case, why aren't they breeding Kwisatz Haderachs left, right, and center and dumping them on this planet? If you see what I mean. But it's not yet the Fremen reaction and the obvious element of the Arrakeen diet. Sorry, this Fremen reaction and the obvious element of the Arrakeen diet, high in spice, were glossed over by the Bene Gesserit observers. And again, it just seems that they don't seem to realize the importance of these things. And I wonder, inevitably produces a high proportion of sensitives. I wonder what that's about. The Lisan al-Gaib, yes indeed. The voice from the outer world. Paul and Jessica's disappearance is the next thing. This is the one I always thought was kind of maybe a wee bit obvious, but it depends on your intelligence and what you hear, I suppose. When Harkonnens and soldier fanatics of the Padishah Emperor reoccupied Arrakis, killing Paul's father, I just put no, they didn't really. I always go with it. Leto commits suicide. And most of the Atreides troops, Paul and his mother disappeared. But almost immediately, reports of a new religious leader among the Fremen, a man called Muad'Dib, who again was hailed as the voice from the outer world. We've got reports that clearly state that he was accompanied by a new Reverend Mother of the Sayadina Rite, who is the woman who bore him. Records available to the Bene Gesserit stated in plain terms that the Fremen legends of the prophet contained these words. Pardon me, Fremen legends of the prophet. He shall be born of a Bene Gesserit witch. Excuse me. Burping a wee bit here with my fizzy purple stuff. Ah, dear. So, I've written this next bit. This is an argument. an apology almost. It may be argued here that the Bene Gesserit sent their Missionaria Protectiva onto Arrakis centuries earlier to implant something like this legend as a safeguard should any members of the school be trapped there and require sanctuary, and that this legend of the voice of the outer world was properly to be ignored because it appeared to be a standard Bene Gesserit ruse. So, but we're told. So that's it. They don't pay attention. This, I suppose, we've also got the fact that the Harkonnens suggest that Paul and his mother are dead. But suddenly, a new leader appears who's got a Bene Gesserit, seemingly a Bene Gesserit mother. That would have probably allowed some people to put two and two together, I think. Blue Moon Milk. Oh, Blue Moon Milk. Not quite. It's a funny Fanta, isn't it? It's I don't know what the hell it is. It tastes like. I really like it, folks. I have to tell you. And I don't drink alcohol anymore. It's zero sugar. What is it? It says it's strawberry cheesecake flavor. I think it tastes like if anybody knows them, I don't know if you get them in outside of the UK. There's these kids sweets called is it Refreshers? I'm thinking of. I think something else. Maybe I'm thinking of. They taste like a kid's sweet. It tastes like a kid's sweet, one of those old-fashioned ones. Jungle strawberry cheesecake doesn't but I just love it. Look at the color of that. It is so purple, very royal purple. As I've been doing these books, all the important anything super important or characters names goes in purple. There you go. I'll put up a wee photo of we'll have to have a wee chat about it once we get done, folks. Because maybe we do have to give ourselves a wee bit of all of us a bit of congratulations when we get through this tonight. Man says linking scientific wrongs, methodological issues, bad health screenings in the YouTube algorithm. I think we can all agree that when it becomes a business, everything goes to shit. Almost yes. Our privatized prison system proves your point, Matt. And Shai is saying it shouldn't have been ignored. It should have been a signal that the Bene Gesserit had sought refuge there. That's what I got from that. It's a Bene Gesserit ruse. The Missionaria Protectiva is to protect their order. Anytime one of them ends up on any planet around the universe, they go around sowing these myths so that it's a survival thing, isn't it, really, for the Bene Gesserit? That Bene Gesserit sister can move into that role in that society, and ultimately it's usually a role of power, isn't it? So you're quite right, Chaya. As much as we're told that they're virtually ignored this, let me see if I can find it. Hang on. Was properly to be ignored because it appeared to be a standard Bene Gesserit ruse. That doesn't really make sense, and it would also suggest that if we've got a Bene Gesserit sister who's kind of crashed on this planet, just leave them there and let them go to work, rather than seeking out that person through that story, if you like, and maybe getting them off that planet, helping them. But we're told, but that would be true only if you've granted that the Bene Gesserit were correct in ignoring the other clues about Paul Muad'Dib. So as much as that would be okay if it wasn't what that's basically saying, if it was just that it was probably just the Bene Gesserit sister in trouble. But this would only be true if they had if they were correct in ignoring the other clues. But of course we're told they're not. This is very much about the flaws of the Bene Gesserit, I think. Now this next little bit is interesting here. I think this is to do with the Guild and the Bene Gesserit. So what we're told is when the Arrakis affair boiled up, the Spacing Guild made overtures to the Bene Gesserit. Now, the Guild, this is quite interesting, and you would wonder why they would ignore this. So when Arrakis, the Guild hinted that its navigators who used the spice drug on Arrakis to produce the limited prescience necessary for guiding spaceships through the void were, quote, bothered about the future or saw problems on the horizon. Now, I've written next to that, both of those statements are pretty vague, aren't they? We could all say them out loud right now, that we're a little bit bothered about the future and that there are problems on the horizon. But it's nothing particularly indicative. But at the same time, then, prescience, the future, all of this stuff, this is what the Guild are all about, spacing. The Bene Gesserit would be aware that it should cause real concern, I think, to everyone and everybody in the universe here, not just the Bene Gesserit. So we're told that this could only mean that they saw a nexus, a meeting place of countless delicate decisions, beyond which the path was hidden from the prescient eye. This was a clear indication that some agency was interfering with higher order dimensions. Now, we're told that this is when the Arrakis affair boiled up. So I'm assuming that that's at the height of it. It's not over. I wouldn't use boiled up. I would say, I'm not sure. Maybe actually, Andre, maybe you could you help me here, folks? If we would say boiled over here. Boiled up isn't. I'm just taking that's when it's come to its head that it's not over. I'm not sure if you'd agree with me or not. I was a little bit confused about that. Sort of when is this during the Arrakis affair? When are they saying this to the Bene Gesserit? They saw a nexus, a meeting place of countless delicate decisions beyond which the path was hidden from the prescient eye. Everything past this nexus is we don't know what's going to happen. We're told that there's a clear indication that some agency was interfering with higher order dimensions. At this point, we have to go with who is that? And it's probably Alia and Paul, to be honest with you. That's what I would get from that. Some agency. Again, what they don't know, what we don't, we kind of, you tend not to really know what your enemies are doing, this kind of thing. Speculation. So we're told a few of the Bene Gesserit had long been aware that the Guild could not interfere directly with the vital spice source. Now, this is what we've talked about before, folks, that the Guild don't act here at the point of everything going down with Paul the Emperor, the whole thing. And we've always kind of mentioned that, but this is kind of where we learn this, I suppose. That they kind of, why wouldn't they interfere? It would seem that they would be the most logical people to do so, but they can't, or they won't, because we're told they were already were dealing in their own inept way with higher order dimensions, at least to the point where they recognized that the slightest misstep they made on Arrakis could be catastrophic. And I think this is what makes them just sort of take the safe route rather than try to risk anything. It was a known fact that the Guild navigators could predict no way to take control of the spice without producing such a nexus. The obvious conclusion that we're told was that someone of higher order powers was taking control of the spice source, yet the Bene Gesserit missed the point entirely. And again, why is what I've asked. But here we go, folks. My favorite bit in Dune. The one thing that really got me and made me always keep wondering, this is it, I think. This is the great. In the face of these facts, one is led to the inescapable conclusion that the inefficient Bene Gesserit behavior in this affair was a product of an even higher plan of which they were completely unaware. Whose plan? What plan? Completely unaware, and I've written, and so are we, all the way to the end. I have also written down next, Bene Tilex, possibly. And I don't know what you think about this. But I think it's, I don't know. I've always wondered about this. This is what I've written here, folks, just to let you know. This is how I've always considered this. This is the Great Mystery of Dune. Who are we talking about here? What's going on? Whose plan is it? And you have to understand that what we're being told here is that the Bene Gesserit are tools in someone else's plan, including their breeding program. And that their inefficient behavior is a result of something, of an even higher plan of which they were completely unaware. And it's just opens up everything to speculation. But we've been, from the very beginning of this book, plans within plans within plans. And if we go all the way back, we have the Atreides plans, we have the Harkonnen plans. Everybody's got a plan. But this is something that who are we talking about here? I've written that the possibility could be the Bene Gesserit because we don't meet them in this book, and also that they have been attempting to produce Kwisatz Haderachs. And if anybody's had a wee look at my work before with the PhD, that's that whenever we get there, the Bene Gesserit, Kwisatz Haderachs are absolutely cognate with the race of prescient beings from Samuel Butler's Erewhon. They all commit suicide, which is fascinating, you know. Let's just catch up with. Well, that's the end of Appendix 3, folks. I'm going to catch up with your comments, and then we're going to hit the almanac on Ashraf, which won't be too. Will be very quick. Let's just see what you're saying. We're on our way. Let's just catch up with your comments. So where were we at the last time? There we go. I think Matt is saying, what I say, my friends, constantly is that is not that doing business is wrong, or weapons or drugs of that matter. What is wrong is us, people. That's a harder issue to deal with. Yes. Funny enough, we're talking about it in terms of systems with my wife a wee while back, Miles, about the care that my father got, and all the different individuals, doctors, carers, nurses, charities, the whole lot, pharmacists. How as a system that's run by the government, if you like, through the both your local GPs and particularly through social services in this country. And my wife's been considering doing a PhD in social work management, this kind of thing. And we were talking about mapping this, and I said it's a waterfall model. But we were talking about mapping the system, and I think we've mentioned this. Any human being can wreck any system. And systems are built up on fundamentally order, laws, rules, etc. And no system can survive a human being interacting with it. I think if that human being wants to wreck that system, and it's because we're completely, not all of us, but some of us are very illogical or random or chaotic, or as I said, I've deliberately gone in and wrecked a system and used it to manipulate people, to destroy a company and wipe £10 million off this country's economy, mainly because these people were messing with my house and they thought it was fine, and it wasn't. And I used their systems against them. And I'm a person who'll do that. I won't attack a person. I don't resort to physical violence ever. I use what you have against you. And I don't take revenge on people. I like to teach people lessons. I like to tend to let people have their own behavior reflected back on them, I think. And then suddenly when they don't like it, it's an interesting thing. But systems can absolutely be messed up so badly by the randomness of a human being, and it could be a good thing or a bad thing, but feedback's the thing. If you want to wreck a system, if you understand feedback, then and we'll talk about it, I suppose, within the context of the Dune universe. Feedback loops, positive feedback loops are really bad. Negative ones are pretty good, if you know what I mean. I'll give you an example, guys. If you remind me at the end of this, I have a story to tell you once about how I brought how I brought utter chaos to all of London once, because someone slapped me in the face. I'll tell you that story at the end if you like tonight. It's a funny one, but it's how I manipulated a road system and with massive positive feedback, and I ended up having it closed, going around and round, and I made the news apparently. Traffic chaos all across London. Nobody has any idea about it, but it was me. It was a long time ago. It was in the early 90s. But if someone reminds me before the end of the night, just for a bit of fun, it's a funny story. But I'll tell you how I did that and why. Let's see. But yeah, human beings and systems. And it's funny that systemic thinking is a fundamental part of who we are, I think. And it's one of the things that Frank says is really bad, actually. Frank thinks that systemic thinking is really, really bad. But it depends. It's systemic thinking is bad when we look at people as part of systems, I think. and the governments like to do that a lot. You know, let's see, where were we? Yeah, people are because we're always the common denominator when something good or bad goes to shit. Absolutely. Carlos says, could be that other memory is overrated? If you're getting bad advice, does it matter if it comes from a multitude? It's an interesting point. I see this thing online a lot that people. Let me get my copy. It's a thing amongst Christians at the minute, I've noticed. I have no idea why, right? Because I know this man, and we're talking that Stoicism, particularly the Stoicism, if you like, as presented by the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. This is his Meditations. This is a very good book if you want an insight into a Roman emperor. Aurelius is from like 121 to 180 AD, arguably one of the greatest Roman emperors. But there's people who are going, oh, you know, as much as goodness gracious, I've got really big coffee ring on that. I'm quite ashamed of it. You can books that I read or work at a lot tend to actually have badly coffee stiff, but they're taking this. People say this is their Bible, you know, or their guide to life, which I think is a very bizarre thing for a Christian to say. But other people would say that, you know, people calling this book their Bible. The Bible's a library, by the way. But yeah, there's wisdom in it. But he's a Roman emperor. You understand? This man used to sew people inside bags with live dogs and snakes and things, and you know, he executed Christians left, right, and center. He's a Roman emperor, and as much as they're Roman, they're people, and they're people of their times, and they're just men or women, you know, this kind of thing. And it's even if you look at the great philosophers of their time, they get stuff wrong. Everybody gets stuff wrong, and you can't take. Something I like to think of is that when I've studied ancient philosophy quite a bit, so I would have studied what you call the pre-Socratics, which is people like Thales, Anaximander, Heraclitus, this lot, and Pythagoras is one. And it's how they go about things. They're called the pre-Socratics because they don't really have scientific method yet. That kind of tends to come with Socrates, doesn't it? And that's the dividing line, if you like. But they're wonderful thinkers. They're so close in so many things, but they're wrong half the time. But you can go, yeah, and you can get to see how they think. And it's their imagination, I think, that's fundamentally incredible about the pre-Socratics, and they're approaching close to, trying to understand the universe. They get things wrong. It's no different with Socrates or Plato or Aristotle. Go on down the road. You can take your Nietzsche's, modern philosophers, if you want. Things that they get right, things that they get wrong. But if you take philosophy and go, that's mine, I'll take that. It's not a good way to go about it. I think the best way in terms of dealing with that kind of stuff is to take it's a bit like the dialectic, to take what's good from each man or each philosopher, each woman, etc. But to discard the rubbish, I think. And so I'm not a Stoic, or I would argue that I'm closest to being a Cynic, but that's, in terms of the Greek philosophies, if you like. But I'm actually a bit of a hybrid of them all. And it's why I tend not to ever jump into any one camp, because I can find flaws in any human being. I can find plenty of them in myself, So I don't put people on pedestals, even if they've been dead for 2,000, 3,000 years. But that part of the world is fascinating, and how the philosophers that came after the pre-Socratics went about their business, very interesting. Plenty of things they get wrong. But they're committing. You have to understand how rare writing is in the ancient world sometimes, I think, Excuse me. Let's just catch up. This thing's been scrolling. It's just my opinion, But if you're into philosophy, read it, take the good, leave the bad. I think no one's perfect. Nobody has all the answers. And if you understand that, that's the best way to go about it. And it's the same with religions and myths. I think, they can be fascinating to a degree, but they're pretty myths are a whole different thing. But religions and philosophies not too far separated, if you like. Was it the Guild? It could be, but I don't think so. The Guild. I think the whole point is that the Guild are almost impotent here. I think is that we're told about inefficient and inept are the words that were being used here with both groups. I think isn't that right? The Guild are inept. Yes, already dealing in their own inept way. It's not their plan. It's not the Bene Gesserit's plan. This is the Great Mystery of Dune. And I've looked, and I'm open to suggestions, and it's a thing to discuss and wonder about. I have no idea. Whose plan? What plan? I've written that we're completely unaware, and so are we all the way to the end. Unless there's some deep. I always think it's got something to do with Daniel and Marty and who they are. And it's interesting. A lot of people's takes on the great enemy, this kind of thing, slightly different than mine, but I'm keeping an open mind about it as we're going to go through the books. I'm looking forward to getting all the way to the end and seeing what I think about it all these years later. So this is the last sentence suggests that the mistakes of the Bene Gesserit were part of a higher plan. Yeah, a product, a result of this, even, but they don't know what it is. And so the word this. Jessica being, I think that the words that continue running through the previous appendix into this, tools. So, are the Bene Gesserit a tool of something? But who are we talking about? And as I said, we have a brief mention of the time. What do we get about the Bene Chilax in this book? It's virtually nothing, isn't it? It's let me just quickly grab the terminology here. Bene Chilax. Or is it just Twi'leks in this? Twi'leks, lone planet of Thalum, noted as renegade training center for Mentats, source of twisted Mentats. Doesn't use the word Gola there. That's about it, isn't it? There's literally nothing else, I think, about the Bene Twi'leks in this. Just the Twi'leks. Just a little note. We'll see them in the next book. Very, very, the Skytail. And the Bene Twi'leks are fascinating, I think. And a male to female comparison, if you like, male group, male school, heavily religious, female school, non-religious, but their goals seem to be kind of similar in a way. And whenever we get to that moment of realization as to what the Bene Chilax are, long down the road, doesn't it? But I don't know. I don't know. I'm happy to say I don't know. So this in the last, just on that. I'll just say it again. Sorry. The last sentence suggests that the mistakes of the BG were part of a higher plan. Why not the better part of the Bene Gesserit being part of a higher plan? Is this how you see the higher plan via mistakes? Oh. Could be. Because we're being told about a kind of where is it? Let me just see. In terms of the breeding program, some wild variable, wild variable mistake, can we call it that? I'm a person who learns from my mistakes, and when I'm teaching my kids, I tell them to make mistakes. It's fine, don't worry about it. And every time they do make a mistake, we go, well, what did we do wrong? And we investigate that, and then we end up learning more about our process, if you see what I mean, about whatever it is, particularly with maths and things like that. And it's good to know what not to do as opposed to what to do sometimes. And it could all be about mistakes, really. Chaya Revka is in the golden path plan of a theoretical creator or god. If we ran the whole Atreides thing, the Trojan War, which is an overlay on this story, it's who's responsible for the Trojan War? It's Zeus. Ultimately, though, if we backtrack a bit, why does Zeus want to create the Trojan War? It's to do with Prometheus. If anybody's familiar with Prometheus Bound, the play by Aeschylus, there is a sequel written to it called Prometheus Unbound, which kind of sparked a bit of a trend, I think, which is by Percy Bysshe Shelley, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just double check that. It is indeed. There we go. It's a 4-act lyrical drama by Percy Bysshe Shelley. My old memory is not that bad, is it? There's a kind of, it's created a kind of literary thing on it. If we understand that Frankenstein is the modern Prometheus, or the modern Prometheus, there's Frankenstein Unbound by Brian Aldiss, I think. There's a Dracula Unbound too. It became a thing, but the original is Prometheus Unbound, which creates a conclusion to the story by Aeschylus. The whole problem is this, basically. Prometheus knows a secret. Prometheus is humanity's friend in the ancient world. The gods are our enemies, really. Prometheus is the creator of man and man's protector, if you like. It's him that gives us the gift of fire. It's him that creates the trick at Macon, which means that mankind only sacrifices fat and bones to the gods. This kind of thing. He knows a secret, and the secret is that one of Zeus's sons will be greater than him and might just destroy him in the same way that Zeus destroyed his father and his father destroyed his father. You know, this Kronos and Uranus, this kind of thing. That's, yeah, I think we see. So that's the reason, if you want. There's casus belli, if you like, reasons for the war, but ultimately for Zeus, it's one of his children will be greater than him and might kill him, and unfortunately for Zeus, he's a prolific rapist and breeder, if you like, and almost all the heroes on the earth are his children. So that's the reasoning for the creation of the Trojan War. It's set up through the wedding of the Argonaut Peleus, who is Achilles' father, and the nymph Thetis. And of course, Zeus invites all the gods, etc., but leaves out Eris, the goddess of discord. And it's because of that she throws the golden hand grenade into the wedding, the apple of the Hesperides that says "to the fairest." You know. Would anybody here, just out of hand, would anybody like to hear some Homeric Greek? Here's one for you. Let's see if I can do this. Menen aede thea peleadua Achilles. There we go. Just because it's relevant. That's the first line of the Iliad in Homeric Greek, as in was spoken 2,800 years ago. How did I do? It means sing muse of the wrath of Achilles, Peleus' son, if you like. Peleus means bruised face in Greek. Oddly enough. Sorry, I'm drifting, folks. You shouldn't take me into that word too. Off I go. I'd sit there all night. Creator God. Who knows? And again, with that Trojan War overlay, I mean, there's so many details, but there's the ancient Greek Trojan stuff, if you like, and then it runs down into the more classical period, where these stories that we know tend to be finished through elements in Greek tragedy and comedy, you know, in the plays of Athens. It's great playwrights. You know, it could well be. If you see, Carlos says, if you see time as non-linear, it could very well be Leto's golden path. I have an opinion about the golden path. I think I've explained it a few times. I don't know if people agree with me, but I think there is no golden. I'll say it out loud. I think there is no golden path. I think the golden path is the idea of the madman in charge. And the golden path changes. So Paul's golden path's not the same as Leto II's. We'll find that out later. I'm not all too sure time exists. Time doesn't exist, Carlos. That's where I'd go with. And what is it Douglas Adams says? There's time is an illusion. Lunchtime, doubly so. Great quote from the Hitchhiker's Guide there. It could, yeah. You see, we've got the sense that, I don't know, can you go back? But the idea that Alia can be sending messages to the future is quite a strange thing. You know, Alia is, who knows? It's and of course there's not just Paul, there's Alia as well on the planet, and Alia can interfere in time, can't she? China says the multitude may not be able to overpower, possess someone. Was the Baron possesses, or the way the Baron possesses Alia. Oh right, yes, and the other multitude of other memory may not be able to overpower, possess someone the way the Baron possesses Alia. Try getting a multitude to agree on what's the right thing to say or do. Well, isn't that? Yes, indeed. It's the multitude's a mob, isn't it? All these people throughout history. It is fascinating. Let me see. Sorry, this is jumping up here a wee bit. I'll catch up with your comments a wee bit, folks, and then we'll just run through the almanac, Appendix IV. Oh, hang on, catch. Oh goodness, right. I've got a lot to catch up with here. Hang on. Frank Red saying, "Evening all." Connor Quinn says the best philosophy is to love wisdom. That is philosophy, absolutely. Love and wisdom, I think, is what you'd said before you retracted. I would agree. Frank Red saying, really interesting regarding systemic thinking and the problem arising only when people cease to be thought of as individuals. Become conceived of in terms of the relation to systems exclusively. I see it done all the time. And it's a dehumanizing thing. You're a client or a whatever, but you're not a person. It's funny, I don't know why they can't just say your client is you're interacting with a person. Be nice, this kind of thing. Remember that they're human beings. A client suggests, almost a mercantile relationship, if you like, not mercantile, but a financial one. Yeah, it's interesting. I've worked for a company, all sorts of things. The way they'll talk about people, and the one seldom do you hear the word person, or human being. Just it's bizarre. Going off your story of bringing London to a standstill, would you say that individuals being able to deploy systemic thinking to manipulate said systems is a positive of having systems? Yes, it depends. Systems can be bad and they can be used to control and hurt people, and I see it all the time. I've been a victim of it myself with the government. So yes, indeed, I think of a bad system. It's interesting, folks, that we've just heard that is it the United Nations has published in the light of what's going on in Israel because of certain hackers, or I prefer the term cracker. For those who don't know, a hacker is an IT professional who's paid to test banking, break into systems. And we said banking systems. Oops. But a cracker is a person who does it illegally, if you like. There's a difference. It's one of the things that the news gets wrong all the time because they're ignorant. I've got a whole list of things that the BBC say that are just reek of ignorance. But that's one of them. One of the ones that they say a lot that we might find fun is that it might sound like science fiction, but today, and almost every article that I've ever heard that begins with that statement, I can go, well, it was science fiction. So why don't you just say that it was somebody's idea from way back? Yeah, bitterly cold is the one that the weather people can't think of anything else to say when it's really cold. The thing is, there's 1,000 ways to say it's really cold in this country, but they're all quite rude, or not rude, but they use swear words and things like that. The BBC have lost the plot, I think. Let's just see. Yes, systems. Look, fundamentally, Frank, just thinking about it, but that's kind of, if we go back to the Butlerian Jihad, people with machines control other people. That's the thing. But machines are, I suppose my qualifications, there's lots of different computing degrees. Mine is in computing and information systems. Systems is so I'm a computer science, but systems is what it's all about, really. And I do think of things, and I'm very good at thinking of things in terms of systems, but I'm also a classicist and a philosopher and all of these things. So I also fundamentally look at people as people, and I regardless of how they might interact within a system, or how we use systems actually is quite important as well. I always will think of that as a person, and part of it's to do with this book, believe it or not, because I became a computer scientist long after reading this. Not too long after, but long enough. It was post June, if you like. And I think it was one of the things that interested me in systems. Carlos said, don't think it was Telex who didn't have serial memory until hate become done. I don't either, to be honest, Carlos. It was just a wee question, could it be? But I don't think so either. I mean, with Chaya's comment, ultimately, what's going on here? The golden path plan of a theoretical creator or God, some super being, is what seems to be more likely, but it's hidden from us. And I genuinely think we would have found out in the seventh book. I thought it was leading that way. Because I don't think it was that. Yeah. Connor said, I heard it said mistakes are the only tools that evolution has. We learned, yes. Mistakes are good. They're fundamentally, I'm a man that has made so many mistakes in my life, but I do learn from them. And I've got to the stage in my life where I don't make too many anymore, but I still do. We're all flawed in some ways. And it's when you do something like that or make a mistake or just even be a bit stupid sometimes, as long as you can just have a look at yourself and understand what you did, because I don't like making mistakes twice. I like to understand them and know why I made them, and I don't like to be stupid more than once. If you know, it's easy to be stupid. Anybody can be stupid, if you know what I mean. But yes, indeed. I used to get all that because I don't look like anybody in my family. You might know these. I used to get all the milkman jokes, if you know what I mean. That you're a product of your mother having an affair with the milkman, this kind of thing, because I don't look like him. Oddly enough, I absolutely do look like my father. There's no doubt where my genes come from. But my mother had what's called alpha-1 antitrypsin, which is an immune deficiency of the lungs. It's really bad, and that's a thing that had genetically skipped. They reckoned about 5 or 6 generations before she got it. Myself and my brother had to get tested for it, and I don't have it. But it's something that certainly skipped several generations in her side of her family. Don't know. There's Rolando Sada. Hello, Rolando. Howdy, Doc. Howdy back. Good to see you, sir. Frank Red said, can systems thereby transform power dynamics, polarities, be great levelers? Yes. Wow. Okay, folks, if you don't know about this, I'll tell you something really, really horrible. How do I put this? The Germans, the Nazis, when rounding up the Jews in Europe, but particularly in France, we're going to talk about the Netherlands here. The amount of the Jews that they were able to capture, etc., was, let's just call it a certain percentage in France. In the Netherlands, it was much, much, much higher. And the Germans basically had, it's to do with IBM, and which is an American company, I believe. And there's an IBM in Amsterdam, and I still wonder how the hell they have a nerve to have a building. But they created like a punch card computer system that allowed the Nazis to collate data, genetic data on Jewish people, etc. The idea that even going back certain generations, so many generations would make you Jewish, this kind of thing. And because of the use of that machine, and look into this, it meant that they were able to sort of their ability to round up the Jews in the Netherlands was much, much higher. And it was the use of this system, this technology that look into. I don't have the full details, but it's going back a fair bit. I am very aware of it, and that's a real example of going back. And as I said, the interesting thing about that, by the way, is that American IBM took profits during World War II from Germany, I believe. Look into it. They only admitted it about the year 2000, I think, around then. But it was a thing, and that's an example of that. Quite a bad one. Where are we? Systems there about trying great levelers. They can do real harm. They can do great good as well. Could use of intellect, intuition, reason, creativity to manipulate a system, give an individual at the bottom of the system the ability to affect those at the top. Who determines good use of a system? Yes, absolutely. The person who understands it, I suppose, really, who builds it. But I would be at the bottom of my society, and I can wreck all the way to the top. Yeah, yeah, I'm a kind of non-person in my society. I'm not a Catholic and I'm not a Protestant. Nothing else exists here. Um, I'm sure you all know the joke. We have Muslims and Jews in this country, but are they Protestant Muslims or Catholic Muslims? Are they Protestant Jews? Are they Catholic? You see what I mean? It's I'm nothing. I'm not part of either community, and it's a kind of weird thing to be a stranger in your own land, a stranger in a strange land. But I'm a stranger in my own land. To quote Decrypts. Does anybody know the song Decrypts to the Health? It's a cracker. I love it. I haven't heard it in years, but I'm a stranger in my own land is one of the quotations from it. And I don't really I do interact with both communities, but they're not, yeah, they can go rabid and violent very quickly with someone like me, which sometimes I kind of enjoy poking at them, to be honest with you. Aldous' Unbound books are great. Yeah, Aldous is quite fascinated with the whole thing around Mary Shelley. Of course, Percy Bysshe is her. Percy Bysshe Shelley be her husband. Percy Bysshe Shelley is Dr. Frankenstein, and so yeah, Brian Aldous' argument is that, and I think that's what kind of led him to do that actually. I must have a read. Something, colleges. I've got a Brian Aldous book here. I was just staring at my bookshelf the other day, and I thought I've got to get that read. And it's Cryptozoic, isn't it? Cryptozoic. Yes. Oh my God, what's up there? Greybeard. Again, Aldous has got some good environmental stuff, but yes, indeed. Did he do a Dracula Unbound? I wonder as well. I know Frank. I wonder who did that one. But it's an interesting idea. Yeah, Dracula Unbound by Aldous too. Yeah, Monster Trilogy. What was the third one? Is it the Wolfman Unbound? Dracula Unbound, Brian Aldous collection, the Monster Trilogy. Or is that I haven't read that now. Frankenstein Unbound. So they're both coming up as the Monster Child and Frankenstein Unbound. Just having a wee look at them on Amazon there. Brian Aldous, pretty important figure in science fiction. And his big argument is that Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is the first science fiction book. I don't agree with him at all, but he makes a very good case, and it's worth checking out Brian Aldous' work. Very important figure in science fiction. Good writer too. So yeah, because I haven't got around to that, but I wouldn't mind having a look at them myself. So much to read. Frank, Red, I can think of an example that if you consider your body to be a system, each of your cells is a slave to the system, and the integrants of the system have to have a finite lifespan. There are cells that live pretty decent and luxurious life, say neurons, reward systems and such. On the other end, there are cells being exploited for the system, such as liver cells. If a cell or a slave was able to get free from the restrictions of the system, it will have a competitive advantage over other cells, say liver cell again, but it doesn't have to work as the others. And Frank's just said, oh, got to get through these comments and get caught up. Great to see you, Doug, by the way. My comments somehow were being sent into the ether at the end of the stream of the final chapter, not seen by anyone. I'm very sorry to hear that, Frank. Anytime anything like that happens, if you've got a wee point about the previous episode, sometimes I miss wee things because and I'd really like to read absolutely everything that everyone says. And occasionally I go back and look and oh God, I missed that. So I always apologize if I missed anyone's comments. And I'm not too sure how that some people have been saying like I don't know whether this is being not quite broadcast live or something with some of these adverts putting in. But I'm always, if I ever miss a wee comment, folks, or you've asked me something and I didn't answer, just pop it out again. And there's no worries, and I'll always apologize for that. Oh, I'm very sorry to hear that. I had some thoughts I'd been meaning to send to you, but mainly wanted to give my huge thanks for putting this on. Thank you very much, Frank. You've created a singular space here and gifted us all your teaching and brilliant perspectives. It's been an absolute joy to first listen and later take part. I'm in it for the long haul. Thank you, Frank. That's very kind words. It's a bit emotional today. Thank you. I'm not a person that takes compliments well, by the way. I like my work to be complimented, if you know what I mean. But I'm a wee bit. I'm not too into it, but I appreciate the compliment. Thank you. I never know what to do with them, to be honest. It makes me a bit embarrassed. It will receive all the commodities and goods of the system. This is Miles carrying on with his wee point there of the system without having to work like the others and have reproductive advantages because of the free resources the cell becomes. That cell becomes cancer. Yes, cancer is kind of out of control growth of a cell, isn't it? It's just that it has no more. Yeah, it just keeps going and going. That would be an extreme example of a vigil at the bottom able to manipulate the individuals at the top. In this case, you become free and kill the system entirely. Connor Quinn saying, pure Baltic. Not sure what your reference there or context, Connor. Are you just talking about the weather here at the minute? This is absolutely Baltic when it's freezing. And up in Amsterdam, when I'm up in Amsterdam, we sometimes get the winds off the Baltic Sea. It's very cool. Goodness gracious, a lot of comments, folks. Hang on. Frank Redson, couldn't agree more regarding people as clients. I work for a big homelessness charity and a supported accommodation for those deemed to have complex needs and see this stuff day in, day out. It's absurd. Frank said, totally lacking in basic humanity, full of contradictions and inflexible. People need organic, not mechanical solutions. I agree. And it's interesting that almost all if we take the influence of Erewhon on Herbert's work, man is a machinate animal, is the conclusion that Butler came to. I don't know if you look into Butler too much, but if you go beyond that and look at his life and his works and stuff, he was a person who was railing against religion. And he thought that, I suppose, that Darwin's work on the origin of species by means of natural selection, he absolutely loved it. He was a big advocate of it, and then he absolutely turned on it. And the fundamental thing that I got from studying Butler was that this mechanistic view of the universe destroyed man's humanity, and it made him reevaluate things and sort of go back towards religion. But he became such an attacker of Darwin at the time, the main attacker of Darwin. And there's a relationship, kind of family relationships between them, and the fact that Darwin, I think, didn't respond very much to Butler because he was kind of the vehemence, from what I understand, of Butler's attacks was kind of worrying to him, But it is, man is a machinate animal. That's the quote from Butler, in Erewhon, and he went on. I think it really messed with his idea of humanity. And again, if anyone hasn't read Erewhon by Samuel Butler, if you're a Dune fan, you need to read that book. If you want to really get where some of these ideas come from, Dang, says Lord Crunk, had to be late. Hellos, hi Lord Crunk. It's better late than never, sir. Not to worry. It's good to have you here. Chaya Rivka says, so we have non-linear view of time and serial memory as possibly higher order dimensions, and the Bene Gesserit could be breeding for any others. So we have a non-linear view of time, to a degree, yeah, and serial memory as possible higher order dimensions. I'm not sure that's, I don't know, the BG could be breeding for any others. Well, any other things that they're breeding for, it does say that. It's vague, isn't it? This is the thing, that you could describe this chapter as just vague. And I've written that word here. So, non-linear view of time, serial memory through a male line, yes. And in simpler terms, what they saw was a human with mental powers permitting him to understand and use higher order dimensions. To understand them and to use them. Breeding for a super mentat, Paul's a mentat, human computer with some of the prescient abilities found in guild navigators. And I wonder, what do you mean some? Why not all of the abilities? We don't know what they're trying to get, really. It's almost a suggestion that maybe they don't know. That, hey, let's breed for something and see what happens, and of course, yeah, whoa, wow, we didn't expect that, and he's not what they expect. And regardless, we are aware that there are different Kwisatz Haderachs throughout this series, and that they have different abilities and different qualities, and it's all I think in some ways all we can do is speculate. It's been a long time since I've hit these books, folks, so some of you are maybe fresher with them than me. And as I said, I'm really looking forward to getting my teeth into Dune Messiah and taking some of these things. But I think Frank does things in Dune, and I seem to remember reading something about. But he likes to leave some threads are left just hanging, and I wonder, and I still wondering a lot about Casimir Fenring and things like that as well. But yeah, who knows? But it suggests that you're quite right. Any others, there should be more. What is it that they're after? Why not all the qualities of a guild navigator, whatever they happen to be? I'm assuming they're prescient, higher order mathematics and that kind of thing, isn't it? Dimensional theory. But there's got to be something more to it. What are they looking for? I was thinking, wouldn't it be more sense to kind of breed either a man or a woman, I suppose, that can have both memories? Wouldn't that make more sense? And I still think Alia is quite well. We're going to get to investigate Alia a fair bit, actually, as we go forward. And Alia is the most fascinating character to me in Dune. I think really just makes me, wow. These as I've pointed out, that they're kind of young, baby-like characters elsewhere in science fiction that kind of not quite as deadly as Alia, I think, but there's all sorts we could wonder. I am totally losing track of this conversation here. Let's jump back. Let's see. But yeah, I don't know. My own approach, says Frank, is to wield my agency as an individual, and my position is in the system to pursue the philosophy I think is correct, namely building unique, natural, genuine, honest relationships. Sounds like a good approach. Colleges and cannibals sing the Hollerith Tabulating Company. Ah, yes. There we go. German stuff, the tabulating machine for punch cards. Is that where we're heading to IBM? The thing like that? Yeah. Electromechanical tabulation of punch card data, IBM. So the real controversy from that is that's what it was used for, to exterminate human beings. Disgusting. The real problem for IBM was that they profited from it during World War II. And as I holiday in Amsterdam every year, and there's a massive IBM building just and Amsterdam has a large Jewish population, Jewish quarter and all. So just to see that, I don't know, it was as a computer scientist, this thing that I discovered a wee while back, but probably around the 2000s or something. It's old information to me, but my wife does not like me pointing it out every time we're in Amsterdam, and I always just go, God, they've got a nerve, don't they? Dude, thank you very much. Let's see. I'll get to that in a second. Hang on. Frank says, for myself, there's nothing so fulfilling as making a small positive difference to someone I'm working with. Usually it's just short exchanges, laughs, smiles. The system recognizes no value in these things, yet they're fundamental to well-being and must come before anything. Frank says, read a quote the other day to the effect of, that which does the most good always goes unnoticed. I'd agree. I'm a creature of the shadows, and well, this is the most public I've ever been, is doing this. But I'm a person who gets noticed wherever I go. Unfortunately, my wife and myself talk about this, that there's something about me that people stare at wherever I am, and it's you wouldn't get a sense of it from seeing me on the screen, I think. But we've sort of discussed it. My wife thinks I just have what you call, what she described, is it the inspector from Inspector Calls? I have very massive presence, is what she calls. Oh dear, that's what I was laughing at there. Caravaggio says, hate to break the news to you, Doug, but Phantom is also a product of the mid-century. Germans laughing out loud. Oh, I have Volkswagen cars, all sorts of things, College of Cannibals, yes. College of Moreau's other island. Connor's saying Aldous' Trillion Year Spree is a good history of sci-fi. It is indeed. There's two versions of it. Where's my sci-fi? There we go. This is Brian Aldous' Trillion Year Spree, but it's a different animal. And anybody who's curious, oh dear, look at that. Bad clue. A book I've used a lot. There's Billion Year Spree. History of science fiction. I did a wee set of videos on a very brief history of science fiction, and Brian Aldous got attacked quite badly, and I defended him. And it was by an idiot who basically doesn't know what history is, and it accused Brian Aldous of trying to invent history rather than writing it. And that the person who said that doesn't know what history is. History is to inquire into something, and therefore that's what that is. And it's a real. It was an attempt by one. If you look at my videos, I've named him and I had a go at him, and I just called him the biggest bully on the block, because that's what he liked to think of Brian Aldous. So there's Billion Year Spree and Trillion Year Spree, folks, which is a revised and updated one. Billion Year Spree is Brian Aldous on his own, and Trillion Year Spree is Brian Aldous with David Wingrove. It's a much, you can see what I mean, much bigger thing. But they're both worth reading. Don't take them as separate books, if you see what I mean. There we go. But yes, indeed, I have a lot of respect for Brian Aldous. There we go. And yeah, Cryptozoic is on my list. I bought that not too long ago, and just thought, I haven't read that one. I've got to have a go at that. But yeah, I have a bookshelf of stuff that a lot of stuff up here I haven't read yet, This is China saying the system's blind spots are how the bottom can influence the top. No one sees me coming, China. If you understand, by the time it's done, it's far too late. As I said, I had a real problem with the housing executive in this country, and I wiped the floor with them. They had no idea what I've done to them, no idea at all what I did to them, and they still don't. I used their complaint system against them and created a war between the housing executive and a major contractor. And then set, if you want someone to destroy, you want to destroy a company, get someone else to do it. But I got the government to wipe out a company, and then the government department, if you like, the executive branch of our government, he had to leave his job. And you wouldn't believe the disgusting nature of the men in that business over here. There's a lot of dodgy people working in the Northern Ireland housing executive, and it's a paramilitary move around as well. They like moving dodgy people around different estates and bring dangerous people into other places. But our house got shot up there recently, three shots at the window, and that's just the local kids being given guns by their parents. Interesting. Colleges and campuses. I like to think Lumley's vampire books were influenced by Dracula Unbound, although itself it borrows, I think, from E.R.B.'s Machers. Brian Lumley's Necroscope. Are you talking about Colleges and Cannibals? I read those years and years ago. I thought they were. I don't remember much about them, honestly. I read a few of them, I think. But if that's what you're talking about, I thought they were quite good. But horror's not that kind of horror's not really my thing. The sort of one that I read it around the time. I think I read Dan Simmons's Carrying Comfort, which I thought was quite weird. Dan Simmons does a lot of intertextuality. And I was actually Carrying Comfort is a poem by Jared Manley Hopkins. I was actually studying Jared Manley Hopkins at school when I read that book. But yeah, I wonder. Frank says, not your fault at all, Doc. Not at all. I was running around changing trains, etc. So most likely somewhere on my end or YouTube. No worries. Thanks for your kind words and appreciate it. I'll send over some thoughts soon. Guys, some people send me emails with your if your thoughts are a bit. There's an email on the station logo. It's sciencefictionstation@gmail.com. If anyone wants to send me anything lengthy or that doesn't really suit this, or just your own personal thoughts, I get a few things from Chaya was just saying she sent me a wee email there prior to this, and I'll maybe get a chance to have a wee look at it. But that anybody wants to email me, fire away. I'm happy to take your correspondence and respond. I love getting ideas and things. This is pretty much my social life here. As I said, I am a misanthrope, and I do my best. You certainly spurned my interest about Butler, and I recently found a nice second-hand hardback of The Way of All Flesh, which I've dipped into. That's a very interesting book. That was published posthumously, wasn't it? There is a sequel to Erewhon, by the way, folks, as well. For those who don't know, it's called Erewhon Revisited. You're not given a name for the character in Erewhon, but he's called Higgs. He is a messianic character, but it doesn't really come across to the next book. But it's one of the lesser sort of links between the books. Miles Tigg says he was kind of right in that sense, because indeed Darwin's view is too mechanic. He was indeed missing half of the working mechanism of evolution, which is our actions. And Frank's saying, would love to have a focus session on hearing more on your thoughts of Butler. I'd be very happy to do that, Frank. One of the things that I actually do still have, we've chatted that when I was doing my PhD, it all went to shit because my mum was dying and the university didn't give a flying monkeys about it. But I ended up having to kind of write up. My PhD was done in 3 months, under the worst circumstances possible. Because of that, I've kind of tried to put up almost everything. I've got one other wee thing actually from the PhD that I must put up, which is kind of my first year Viva slides, which is a kind of general thing about Frank Herbert. But the one thing I do have, and I know I have them, but I'll have to find them, as I have my notebooks on Butler. I annotated the book, so I'd be very happy to do that. Well, it's on Erewhon in particular. I know a fair bit about him. There's also something very interesting about Butler, that there's an art which is to do with the Iliad and the Odyssey, and his idea that Homer was a woman. And somebody put a book out on this recently, and it's not a new idea. And I don't necessarily know if I agree with it or not. It's a very interesting concept, and I'd like to read more on it. But yeah, Butler is a fascinating character. And he is the iconoclast of Victorian society. The Way of All Flesh is his biting attack on Victorian society. I believe it's published posthumously in 1903. I think Butler died in 1902, if I'm not mistaken. But he's an interesting guy. And he totally wrecked my PhD. It's as simple as that. When I started reading Dune, I thought, oh, I had ideas about this, and then I go, I must check out this Butlerian jihad thing, and oh, Samuel Butler, this is the guy. There's a whole bunch of Samuel Butlers from the same family. And I ended up picking up Erewhon, and I just went, three months into my PhD, everything changed really badly. And I have discovered this. It's the one thing that I got praised quite well by. My external was a guy called Andy Sawyer, who ran the Special Collections Library at Liverpool University, the Science Fiction Collection, Sidney Jones Collection. Not that I've never published this stuff in any journals or anything, but they said that was the real well done for finding that and running with it, So there is so much of Butler's Erewhon and Dune. It's ridiculous. The core ideas of Dune are fundamentally there. Yeah, but Frank, I do open chats. We've been focusing on the book club, and as I said, my father passed away last year, and things got stopped and started and stopped, and then just stopped. I mean, disappeared for a year pretty much. But I do wee kind of sci-fi chats every now and then, and some are open topics. It's a science fiction station I run here, and it's about the love of science fiction. I cover myth and horror and fantasy a wee bit too. Horror would be my least knowledgeable genre, but my kind of horror is kind of H.P. Lovecraft and Edgar Allan Poe and that kind of stuff. I do like a good horror film, but I don't like what that kind of slasher porn and all this kind of stuff. I like a good psychological horror, and I love old horror films, old black and white movies. I think any horror film should be filmed in black and white to just give it so much more atmosphere, Although, let's see. Maya said it's understandable why many people rejected his ideas on those terms, because it would have made them feel as the key of a piano, Dostoevsky, rather than him. I think it was a big problem for a lot of people think that the problem with Darwin was that Darwin's theory on evolution was that suddenly this theory of evolution appeared. And it didn't. It's not the case. There are other theories of evolution running before Darwin, and they're very much a part of the conversation of life in Victorian society. Lamarckian, or what we call soft inheritance, is dominant before Darwin's theory of evolution. Of course, it's not just Darwin's theory, it's Alfred Russel Wallace's theory as well. Two people came up with this theory at the same time, pretty much, and jointly published their work. But yeah, I think that I think Butler is really responsible for enforcing that mechanistic. The vehemence of his attacks against Darwin bled into the popular culture, I think. But Butler's up for having a go at everybody, I think, at that point. And Victorian society, as much as we look, and it's good to call it Victorian in the sense of Britain and so on, not really elsewhere in the world, but it's not very nice. It's the British Empire that's kind of all at its height, just prior to its decline, which I think begins with World War One. The British Empire is not dead; it still holds imperial territories, and it's dying. It's going the way of all empires, but empires don't necessarily die overnight. They take a long time to die. Sometimes, Is there much of a difference between? Oh, sorry, I missed the one there. Hang on. But having some parts wrong doesn't mean that he wasn't right in a shitload of stuff, and it was a breakthrough for the time. I agree. It's a lot of these people. It's the same what I was saying about our philosophy. They get things right, they get things wrong. We're humans. I often find if you're writing from an angry point of view, that it'll taint your work. If you see what I mean, you shouldn't write angry. You need to be, calm and collected. Is there much of a difference between Billion Year and Trillion? A lot. Two different books, Connor. A lot of the same ideas, but then it's massively expanded. I think it's let me see, just to give you a better sense on it. Oh, it's a much nicer book. Oh dear, I love these old books. These old books are much falling apart. Is this the one with an advert? They have adverts on them. It just used to be quite strange. It's business reply service in the middle of the book. Goodness gracious, I gotta start getting these things. I've got a lot of books in bad shape, folks. Yeah, I'd say just having a wee look. Let's have a wee quick look at the index. It's a good book if you're a science fiction fan. Let's have a wee look just to compare. Shelley, Poe, Honourable Ancestors, Victoria. Yeah, the H.G. Wells. Yeah. Wells quote. Bear with me a wee second. I'm finding what's in one and what's not in the other. Really, the 30s. That's their ones. Yeah. Oh yeah. There's. I'd say. Hang on. 5 extra chapters is the difference. Probably tidied up a bit, I'd say, but it's the same stuff's there. It also, this copy that I have is quite nice. Photos and etc. So it's a nicer book. It's a more complete book, but worth having both. I think I've used both separately for academic work. Must give me some good. These are my kind of science fiction. History books. So there's Understanding Contemporary American Science Fiction. Who's that by? That's a good wee one. By Thomas D. Clareson. This is really covers from the 1920s to the 70s. That's a great book. Yeah, I really enjoyed reading that. There's all sorts here. But we'll probably have a wee run through them, and there's stuff, science fiction, exploration, critical theory, all sorts. There's not too much academically on science fiction, but it's becoming a bigger field these days. Yes, Necroscope. Yeah, long time. That's what I read that when I was school, 18 or so. Watched terrible YouTube video which mentioned Femme Homer the other day. The idea that Homer is a woman. Really pretentious philosophy like trash complete with ambient music. Okay, there is an argument for it. Homer is pretty close to Homeros, which is slave. The idea that Homer was probably a slave, I would run with, in the same way that if we know that Aesop was a slave as well. Blind and illiterate, based on what we know. I don't know. I haven't read enough on it to make an informed decision on whether I agree or not. But I would, at the point where I'm at, I would say no. But it's an interesting idea to explore. I certainly think that Homer is very sympathetic to female characters, and the female characters of the Iliad and the Odyssey are very interesting. And I think that's possibly where that idea comes from. Have I read Clark Ashton Smith? Hang on a second. I don't think so. The name's not ringing a bell. The Eldritch Dark. Oh, he's a wee bit older. The best known for his association with HP. I have not. Tell you what, I'll scribble that down somewhere. Oh, we're not on this stuff tonight, but that's someone worth looking at. Because I like the Cthulhu, don't I? Clark Ashton Smith. No, I haven't. American writer and artist, let me see. 1893 to 1961. As a poet, Smith has grouped with the Northwest Coast Romantics alongside Joaquin Miller, Sterling, and Nora Mae French is remembered as the last of the great Romantics and the Bard of Auburn. That's a nice epithet, isn't it? Smith's work was praised by his contemporaries. H.P. Lovecraft stated that in sheer demonic strangeness and fertility of conception, Clark Ashton Smith is perhaps unexcelled, and Ray Bradbury said that Smith filled my mind with incredible worlds, impossible, beautiful cities, and still more fantastic creatures. It's possible I've read something by him, but I don't think so. Let's go see if we can. Where are we? Do we have a bibliography? Third member of the great triumvirate of weird tales. Well, there you go. There's my ignorance. It's amazing what you don't know. What you just by not coming across something. Zothic belonged to the Dying Earth subgenre. So he's set on Mars and the invented planet of Zikr. Let's see. Here's a list of stories. Do I recognize any? Goodness. No, I don't. I genuinely. Yeah, big gap in my knowledge there. Thanks very much, Connor. That's someone I'll have to look into. Excellent, excellent. See, I learn here too, don't I? Oh dear, the dangerous philosophy of Ursula Le Guin. Real guff. The dangerous philosophy of Ursula Le Guin. What's this? Le Guin is not guff, obviously the video. Oh yeah, Le Guin's brilliant. Dangerous philosophy. I love Ursula Le Guin. I am hoping to do, once we finish the book club, folks, as I said, I've got a wee bit of housekeeping to do with the station because we've got that many videos on it. It takes a wee while now to sort out. But this book here on the bookshelf behind me is The Word for World is Forest, and it has a lot to do with Dune, I think. I'm going to do a wee video on it. Look forward to it. But yes, Ursula Le Guin, someone I got into, I suppose, at university, and I read The Left Hand of Darkness, and I was quite impressed by it. And I've got, I don't have too much by her. I've got the Earthsea series in one book, and I have The Lathe of Heaven, which is brilliant. I think there's a film of it on YouTube, and The Dispossessed, which is brilliant. And The Word for World is Forest, which is a bit of a tongue twister, is excellent. If anybody's not read this, it's a novella. The Word for World is Forest, and you're a Dune fan, I highly recommend it. And you'll know why once you've it read. You could probably read it quite quickly. You must read Ashton Smith. I will certainly give it a go. The one person that kind of there that I was thinking on doing some stuff. I'm trying to think of some more audiobooks. What's his name? Is it Chambers? Who am I thinking of? And you know what? I've lifted his book and put it somewhere else, haven't I? Let me just see quickly. Who am I thinking of? and it does kind of go with that kind of stuff. Oh, I'm going to have to look up his name. My brain's farting here at the minute. You'll know it if anybody. Dude, it's the King in Yellow is what I'm thinking of. Robert Chambers. I was right. If does anybody know Robert W. Chambers? And you may know if you're into all Poe, Lovecraft, this kind of thing. Then he's something else as well. But there are 4 stories to do with the King in Yellow, which are absolutely brilliant. And I'm thinking on trying to create. I'm thinking of doing all 4 as an audiobook to put up on the station. So there's another. Yeah. Frank says, "Do you have any thoughts on Gene Wolfe?" Loads. Someone recommended him to me the other day in the same vein of sci-fi as Le Guin and Philip K. Dick. Not even. No way. Sorry, Frank. He's nothing like Ursula Le Guin or Philip K. Dick, not even remotely close. How would I put it? I've done a wee kind of if you look at my wee, I chat about him a wee bit. I did that wee series of A Brief History of Science Fiction. He's in the last episode. High literature. The Book of the New Sun is what I've read by Gene Wolfe. I've read something else by him a long time ago, but I can't remember what it is. You're talking in the top 5 big sci-fi epics of all time. I what you used to call the Big 4 back in the day, Robert Heinlein, Asimov, Herbert, and Clarke. There's a different group of people today, and I'd say they're Dan Simmons, Gene Wolfe, Ian M. Banks. Possibly, just in terms of content, I wouldn't put them in the same category as how good a writers they are. But you could. Sorry, I have that many people's names I'm trying to remember. Who else am I thinking of? And I don't really agree with this statement of Ender's Game. Orson Scott Card is what person I was thinking of. They're the big ones to me. Dan Simmons, the best science fiction that there is, I think, is Dan Simmons' Hyperion Cantos, Gene Wolfe's The Book of the New Sun. I've read it once. I saw Quinn recently. I think he put up, from Quinn's Ideas, had put up that I think he was going to have a go at doing a video on it, and I just thought, good luck. And I mean that sincerely, good luck, because that's not going to be easy. Because I'm a classicist and have some sort of, it's an easier read for me. I think I've said this, it's a book that demands a bit from the reader, but they're brilliant. So Book of the New Sun, what's the first one? The Shadow of the Torture. I'd kind of put up my wee Dune Book Club things here today just to have a bit of fun, because we've filled up all these volumes. But there we have them. You can get them on the Science Fiction Masterworks, guys, as the Book of the New Sun Volume 1 and Book of the New Sun Volume 2. But there's 2 novels within each one. So highest recommendation possible from me. But be prepared for a bit of work, I think. The Suicide Bus, yes, indeed. Let me grab a wee ciggy here, folks. I'll check out Clareson's book. Smith is amazing. Happy to have introduced him. Thank you. Says that's from the King in Yellow stories. That's right. Definitely. Frank says definitely see what you mean about the shared ecological themes. Both. Oh, in relation to. Sorry, I missed that. Then let me back up. It was about. I think I might have missed a comment there. Oh, maybe it was just a. Oh, that was it. It was listen to an audiobook. Sorry, Frank. Of the Word for World is Forest on your recommendation. Really loved it. Also reading The Dispossessed at the moment very slowly. And Frank said, definitely see what you mean about the shared ecological themes. Also, the violence in men and the messianic idea is there too. And I'd almost argue it probably is a response to Dune, I think. Both Herbert, and there's a number of books that are responses to Dune. Definitely see what you mean about the shared ecological thing. It's both Herbert and Le Guin really put the imagination to use to see forms of life and ecosystems in novel ways. They do indeed. Frank Rez, glad this just popped to mind. How about M. John Harrison? General thoughts. Hang on a wee second. I don't think I've read anything by him either. Let's see, Climbers Light, Novus Wing. See, quite modern. Empty Space. One of the major stylists of modern fantasy and science fiction, and a genre contrarian. No, I haven't. This is the thing, guys. You know, as much as it's the same with the classical world, isn't it? I could know a lot, but there's so much. There's just too much for any one person to know. But thank you. I've got. Oddly enough, we're going to be chatting about Greg Bear. Greg Bear is the king of science fiction. I've got a bunch of Greg Bear here that I haven't read yet. Colleges. And I'm really looking forward to it. As he passed away, I'm sorry to hear that. Yes, he would have been a big name in science fiction, I think, at the time, in the 80s, really, I think. I think you might find him interesting. I recommend Light. Okay. I've never, it's what we've talked about it, isn't it? If only we had, if only we could suspend time or something when we read books. Colleges and cannabis, you're generous with your time, dog stuff. No worries, folks. It's all good. I managed to catch up with your comments. That took a while, didn't it? Well, listen, folks, I'll tell you what. We'll come back to that in a wee bit. Let's hit we're not finished, so let's go to Appendix 4. It won't take as long. What we've got here is the almanac on Ashraf, selected excerpts of the Noble House. Very briefly, Al-Ashraf Umar II, his dates are 1242 to 1296. Have a wee look at him on Wikipedia. Ashraf means the most honorable or very noble. So the almanac of the most honorable or very noble. He's actually let's see, hang on. Oh, hang on. Let's just type him in a wee second. Oh, now he has actually Al-Ashraf's almanac is a real thing, I believe. There he is. Just to give you a wee bit of so we always find these little references here, is the third Rashid Sultan who ruled as Al-Ashraf Umar II. So his full name here is Al-Malik Al-Ashraf Muhammad al-Din Umar ibn Yusuf ibn Umar ibn Ali ibn Rasul. That's a mouthful, isn't it? Known as Umar ibn Yusuf, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It was the third Rashid Sultan who ruled as Al-Ashraf Umar II, also a mathematician and astronomer. So this is kind of a wee nod to him, and I think he did some stuff quite interesting, worth having a wee look at there. Ashraf's Mill al-Maha is considered by the historian David King to be crucial in constructing the history of agriculture during the Rashid era. The work of which 2 copies are extant is the earliest Rashid treatise about agriculture. The exact title is not known. He's an interesting chap, as always. There's stuff there to do with astrolabes and things. Jeez. As always, isn't it interesting the people that Herbert introduces us to? So what we've got here, folks, is 7 excerpts, if you like, from this book on nobles, and just little bits here. We'll run through them, and we have a couple of comments, and we're going to find something hidden here. We've got another anagram in here of a hidden science fiction writer. Has anybody spotted it? We've only got 2 pages. Can anyone see the hidden science fiction writer in this chapter, in this appendix? So let's just run through them quickly. Shaddam IV, we're told, 10,134 to 10,202. The Padishah Emperor, 81st of his line, House Carino, to occupy the Golden Lion throne, reigned from 10,156. We're told the date his father, Elrud IX, succumbed to Chaumarky, poison as we know, until replaced by the 10196 regency set up in the name of his eldest daughter, Irulan. His reign is noted chiefly for the Arrakis revolt, blamed by many historians on Shaddam IV's dalliance with court functions and the pomp of office. The ranks of Bursegs were doubled in the first 16 years of his reign. Appropriations for Sardaukar training went down steadily in the final 30 years before the Arrakis revolt. He had 5 daughters, Irulan, Chalice, Wenasisia, Josefa, and Rugi, and no legal sons. Suggestion of illegal sons. Excuse me. 4 of the daughters accompanied him into retirement. His wife, Anaril, a Bene Gesserit of hidden rank, died in 10176. So very interesting. We do get the name of the wife there. a Bene Gesserit of hidden rank, more mystery for us. And just, I suppose the suggestion there is that he's become a bit of a fop, isn't he? I suppose I would see this in kind of like the French kings, you know what I mean? Their court, you know, hangers on, pomp and circumstances, the frills of power, etc. The suggestion, you know, pomp and circumstance, this kind of thing, and appropriations for Sardaukar training went down. Possibly the idea that we're told that the Sardaukar live quite well, don't they? That they're probably quite soft in many ways compared to the Fremen. We get a wee hint at the five daughters there. We did mention there that the character that Casimir Fenring is based on, the Polish king, had five daughters, and I've always thought that was an interesting little link there. So that's our first one. I suppose we learn a little bit there, not too much. We learn about his wife. Just, I suppose, he survives the 10,202. Probably about 6 years after the Regency set up. Next, we've got Leto Atreides, a distaff cousin of the Corrinos. Distaff's the female side. In those terms, it's Spear is the male side. He is frequently referred to as the Red Duke. Red's never a good association, is it? House Atreides ruled Caladan as a Siridar fief for 20 generations until pressured into the move to Arrakis. He is known chiefly as the father of Duke Paul Muad'Dib, the Umma regent. The remains of Duke Leto occupy the Skull Tomb on Arrakis. His death is attributed to the treachery of a Suk Doctor, and is an act laid to the Siridar Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. Nothing really we don't know there. I suppose it's just giving us that he's a cousin to the Corrinos on the female side of the family. Distaff cousin. Interesting. The Lady Jessica Honourable Atreides, 10,154 to 10,256. So she lives a good old life, doesn't she? We're told a natural daughter, again, Bene Gesserit reference. Okay, that's an interesting thing. That's a new term. Of the Siridar Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, mother of Duke Paul Muad'Dib, she graduated from the Wallach 9 Bene Gesserit School. I was wondering, is that her home planet? Possibly. The Lady Alia Atreides, we have 10,191, and the dates carry on, but they're not filled in here. The legal daughter of Duke Leto Atreides and his formal concubine, Lady Jessica, Lady Alia, was born on Arrakis about 8 months after Duke Leto's death. Prenatal exposure to an awareness spectrum narcotic is the reason generally given for Bene Gesserit references to her as a cursed one. She is known in popular history as St. Alia or St. Alia of the Knife. For a detailed history, see St. Alia, Huntress of a Billion Worlds, by Pander Olsen. Pander Olsen's Poul Anderson, isn't it? I've got some. Poul Anderson is an author I never saw in this country ever, which is quite strange. I have a couple of books by him here that there's always. I'm always getting around to it, aren't I? But I really hopefully I don't know really much. Hang on, more than two. There you go. I've grabbed these over the years, and I know of them. And I've always been wanting to get around to it, but so I haven't read one of these yet. You can see that I really am a second-hand bookshop person. But I've got The Corridors of Time here, which I think is is this a wee collection of short stories? Or is it? No, it's actually a wee novel. Harvest of Stars. Oh, these Tor books have got nice big print, don't they? He's a decent-sized bibliography. There we go. I'm really looking forward to checking him out one day. So I know a wee bit about him, and and I think, yes, this is Explorations, a little collection of short stories. So that's what I have of Poul Anderson. I'm wondering, do you pronounce that Poul or is it Paul? Is it? I wouldn't know. But he's definitely a big name in science fiction. And there's another. That's the second, I think, hidden author that we found inside Dune. I think we found Jack Vance before, didn't we? There we go. So I don't know if anybody's read Poe Anderson or not. I haven't myself, but I'm looking forward to it, as always. Don't you wish you could just divide yourself into 100 people and grab 100 books and just go for it? Wouldn't that be nice? So there we go, another little hidden reference and another reference to another book here. We've got the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, commonly referred to as Baron Harkonnen. His title is officially Siridar, Planetary Governor. Baron. Vladimir Harkonnen is the direct line male descendant of the Bashar Abulard Harkonnen, who was banished for cowardice at the Battle of Corrin. The return of House Harkonnen to power generally is ascribed to adroit manipulation of the whale fur market and later consolidation with Milan's wealth from Arrakis. The Siridar Baron died on Arrakis during the revolt. Title passed briefly to the Nay Baron Fade Routha Harkonnen. So that's kind of, there's one thing I wanted to look up here very quickly. Oh, no, I didn't want that extra word in there. Go away. Yeah. Bear with me a wee second, folks. I'd like to check out the etymology of something here, but that's it. That's all you've got. Right. Okay, I'm going to change a letter here and see what we get. Bingo. Got you. The etymological root of Abelard could be, so if we change the spelling of that, could be the Middle French ability. The Hebrew name Abel Habel, which is breath, vanity, figured in Genesis. Where am I getting this from? The English Abel of the Latin Ballet to dance. Bear with me a second. I'll have a look at this. Etymology. From the French Abelard, an extension on the able with the Germanic suffix. Possibly also regarded as a variant of the German Eberhard, bore and hard, equivalent to the English Everett. It's a male given name from the Germanic languages, right? A surname from French. There we go. Let me just bear with me one more wee second. Yeah, that's about all I've got there, I think. No, could be a reference. Here we are. There's two people called Abelard in this, which I think is quite strange. Possibly a relation to Peter Abelard. So a reference to Peter Abelard is a medieval French scholastic philosopher, leading logician, theologian, poet, composer, and musician. His dates are 1079 to the 21st of April, 1142. So Pierre Abelard, in French is Pierre Abelard. In philosophy, he is celebrated for his logical solution to the problem of universals via nominalism and conceptualism, and his pioneering of intent in ethics, often referred to as the Descartes of the 12th century. He is considered a forerunner of Rousseau, Kant, and Spinoza. He is sometimes credited as the chief forerunner of modern empiricism. There you go. That's an interesting thing. He was originally called Pierre Le Palais. So yes, let me see this. He changed his name to Abelard, sometimes running at Abelard or Abelardus, the etymological root, as we were just talking about, French ability. Breath, vanity. The name is jokingly referenced as relating to lard, as in excessive fatty learning. And a secondary anecdote referencing Abelard of Bath and Peter Abelard, in which they are confused to be one person. So there you go. There's quite a lot about that chap there. And his philosophy is coming under Catholic philosophy there on Wikipedia. Peter Abelard. It's an unusual name here. We have it as the Baron as being a descendant of this guy. Whenever we get down below, we'll find out that that this is the name of Raban and Fade Routh, his parents as well. This is rather odd, I thought. So there we go. A little bit. Count Casimir Fenring. Once again, this chap is back here. We've we're still not finished with this guy. I love this. A distaff cousin of House Carino, he was a childhood companion of Sharam IV. The frequently discredited pirate history of Carino related the curious story that Fenring was responsible for the Chaumarchy, which disposed of Elred IX, a discredited book. All accounts agree that Fenring was the closest friend Shaddam IV possessed. The imperial chores carried out by Count Fenring included that of imperial agent on Arrakis during the Harkonnen regime there, and later Sirdar Absentia of Caladan. He joined Shaddam IV in retirement on Seleucus Secundus. The interesting question there is about the dates, and as always, what is it with Hasamir Fenring? His wife is off somewhere with a Harkonnen daughter. If Shaddam IV goes into exile, we have a date here for him of dying in 10,202, yet Hasamir Fenring lives to 10,225. I wonder what he does after that. And I wonder, as much as would he join his wife, etc. Where's his wife and where's the child? It says he joined Shaddam IV in retirement in Seleucus Secundus, but he doesn't die to 23 years later. He's a fascinating character, isn't he? And a real shame that that's it. But basically another Kwisatz Haderach, pretty much field one, isn't it? Count Glossu Raban, we're told. Glossu Raban, Count of Lankerville, this is the Beast Raban, was the eldest nephew of Vladimir Harkonnen. Glossu Raban and Feyd-Rautha Raban, who took the name Harkonnen when chosen for the Sirdar Baron's household, were legal sons of the Sirdar Baron's youngest demi-brother, Abulard. Abulard renounced the Harkonnen name and all rights to the title when given the sub-district governorship of Raban. Lakeville, Raban was a distaff name, again on the female side. So that is our little appendix for the almanac and Sharat, and a few little things that we pick up. We get the names of the 5 daughters. We're going to meet Wen Sissia later on, aren't we? And of course, we're going to learn. We're going to get to see a lot more of Irulan and Wen Sissia later on. What we had about Leet was just the remains of the skull. I was just trying to figure out what Jessica's the daughter of the Baron, Alia's detailed history. There wasn't much there really, just little fleshings out. I just like the idea that this detailed history sees St. Alia hundreds of abiding words by Pander Olsen. There's another science fiction author anagram. There's meant to be quite a few in the Dune books. And I just thought, yeah, we get a little bit about the Baron's family being associated with cowardice, I suppose. I know that Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson have covered a whole pile of this stuff, Excuse me. Raban and Fe. Leaders, what have I written here? Legal sons of the Sirdar, young Ablar, Rivian, Harkonnen name and title. Yeah. And there we go, folks. That's the last appendix. And we hit the terminology of the Imperium. In studying the Imperium, Arrakis and the whole culture which produced Muad'Dib, many unfamiliar terms occur. Don't we know that? To increase understanding is a laudable goal. It is. Hence the definitions and explanations given below. And we run from Abba, the loose robe worn by Fremen women, usually black, all the way to the Zen Sunni, who are followers of a schismatic sect that broke away from the teachings of Mammoth, the so-called Third Muhammad. Excuse me. About 1381 BG. The Zen Sunni religion is noted chiefly for its emphasis of the mystical and a reversion to the ways of the fathers. Most scholars name Ali ben Ohashi as the leader of the original schism, but there is some evidence that Ohashi may have been merely the male spokesman for his second wife, Nisai. Isn't that interesting? Excuse me. Now, there we go, folks. Now, if anybody meaning of names, let's see. Nisai means something in Janus Prague. Surnames, I'm not too sure about that. Name, we've got different name meaning knowledge, leadership, fairness, and etc. Reject all, go away. Where are we? Oh no, just trying to get a wee bit of etymology on that, folks. But there we go. If anyone wants to, we've covered an awful lot of terms in the terminology of the Imperium already. If there's anything in there that anyone wants to have a wee look at quickly, let me know and we'll have a wee nosy. But otherwise, goodness gracious. The terminology from Abu to Zen Sunny, Ali Ben Rashi, male spokesman for second wife. I like that. And there we go. Terminus S, Doc Sloan. By the way, somebody was chatting about Gene Wolfe. Terminus S means the end, Latin. Sense of achievement is the name of the sword, by the way, of Severin in the Book of the New Sun. His sword is called Terminus Est, one of the more interesting literary swords, you know. Goodness gracious, folks, we're done. And I'm going to light a wee cigarette and get a wee sip of this and have a wee look at your comments. And we'll see what we can look at, folks. But I'm going to say at this point, you know, thank you all so much. You've been really important to this process. I wouldn't have done this without. I think I was saying this to Carlos the other night there. Couldn't have done this without you. And probably wouldn't have done it without you, to be honest with you. So thank you very much. I can't remember who suggested we do this. I think it might have been Joseph Campbell. But again, I've never done a book club before. It's been a bit like taking seminars with me, hasn't it? It's been quite strange. Greg Baird, King of Sci-Fi, may he rest in peace. I think you might find him interesting. I started reading one of his books and had to put it aside a long time. I just haven't got a recommend light. What have I got? I've got because he's chunky, right? I've got Eon and Eternity here, and I've got Moving Mars, you know. So again, it's just trying to find time, isn't it? So I wish I could absorb a book by going like that. And I'm literally, I want to read everything here. You know, let's see. Anderson's The Broken Sword is a nice saga fantasy. Oh, very good. Something in the glossary entry on melange and elsewhere in the story suggests that the spice greatly lengthens life. But of the few in this appendix who didn't die violently, lived only around 100 years. Yes, I thought that was odd. Why don't we have it's geriatric spice, isn't it? As we like to refer to it, but it's definitely it keeps, I don't know, is it that it preserves your youth, maybe your looks, rather than let's have a wee look. The spice of spices, the crop from which Arrakis is the unique source. The spice, chiefly noted for its geriatric qualities, is mildly addictive when taken in small quantities, severely addictive when imbibed in quantities above 2 grams daily per 70 kilos of body weight. See a bad water of life and pre-spice mass. Muad'Dib claimed the spice as a key to his prophetic powers. Guild navigators make similar claims. Its price on the Imperial market has ranged as high as 622,000 solaris the decagram. That's for 10 grams, I assume. Melange is a blend, isn't it? Yes, it's an interesting thing, isn't it? And to be mildly addictive, regardless of... I can't see the difference between mildly addictive and severely addictive, because withdrawal is fatal. So, so we're told. But pardon me. Yeah, nobody. I suppose my wife was just around at a wee checking out a wee care home tonight, and she was like a wee residential care home. She's meeting some of the residents. And she was telling me there's a wee 106-year-old lady. She was there. Wow, you know. Some of us do live long, I suppose, but in terms of a drug, you're right. I would expect it to only live around 100 years. Jessica's about 98, I think, isn't it? Yeah, it doesn't seem to really, you know, if that's the main purpose, is it an anti-agapic? I think it's how. Or a geriatric drug. Abelard was famously mutilated. Is this from the Brian Herbert? Or is that the other Abelard that we were talking about? I was having a wee nosy at, but I didn't quite get everything there. Peter Abelard, famously mutilated. That doesn't sound good. Seems to be a pretty interesting chap. Affair with Heloise. Marriage, castration. Oh dear. Let's see. Flubert, infuriated that Heloise had been taken from his house and possibly that Abelard had been disposed of her. Arranged for a band of men to break into Abelard's room one night and castrate him. Ooh. In legal retribution for his vigilante attack, members of the band were punished, and Fulbert, scorned by the public, took temporary leave of his canon duties. Does not appear again on the Paris Cartography. Oh dear. Castrated him. In shame of his retirement, he retired permanently as a Notre Dame canon, with any career as a priest or ambitions at higher office in the church shattered by his loss of manhood. Effectively hid himself as a monk. The monastery of Saint-Denis near Paris, avoiding the questions of his horrified public. And folk of ridiculed and belittled Abelard for being castrated. Dear, oh dear. I must have a good read at that Wikipedia page. He's not someone I'm particularly familiar with, Just always trying to get Carl said, Cynthia, given how fabulously expensive it was, perhaps they died of withdrawal. And it also suggests that melange is out of the reach of the common man, doesn't it? Connor saying, why is Fenring among these 7 just for being noble? No, it's a good question, isn't it? Why is he here? He's a cousin. He is a noble, and he has a Bene Gesserit wife of high rank. I think he's a mystery, isn't it? And I think he's meant to remind us of something here. It opens up all sorts of questions about. I want to know what happens with Fenring, Margot, and this. Where does this Harkonnen daughter go? And Fenring, as we said, I've come to the conclusion. I hope you agree with me that what the mistake in his genetic, as we've been putting it, all our mistakes, is I think he's got what we call the no gene. That's his particular ability. There's something that Paul recognizes in him. The interesting bit is that it says is an Imperial agent on Arrakis during the Harkonnen regime. There later Siridar Absentia of Caladan. Yeah. So later is an interesting word because it doesn't give us a specific time frame. And I'm wondering, does he go from Arrakis to start running Caladan, at the beginning of the book, or is that later on because of possibly a title that Paul might give him? But I kind of got the gist that it might be Gurney in charge of Caladan. Yeah, I don't know. He's one of the most interesting characters in the book. We don't know too much about him, but why is he here? It's a very good point. I don't know, all of these things. I think it's him messing with us. Chai is saying it's getting late. I need to sign off. Thanks, Doc, for this wonderful exploration of Dune. I've gained a lot of knowledge and views I haven't considered on my own. Great job. Looking forward to more. Good night. Thank you very much, Chai. Look after yourself, please, and give my regards to your family, and stay safe. Worried sick about you, to be honest, this week. Very happy to hear that you're okay. And thank you very much. And I must have a wee look at your email. And we'll maybe do a wee wrap up with some other things as well with this. But Bojack saying we did it. We've been tuning in live since chapter 4. I've enjoyed every minute. Looking forward to the rest. Congrats, Doc, on the Dune Book Club. Thank you very much, guys. I've got a wee prize for myself tonight for getting through this. I'll sell a little celebration in order tonight. This talk's for you. I wish I could join you. I've just got rollies. My pain medicine is away tonight, unfortunately, folks. To increase understanding is a laudable goal. It is indeed, Connor. Connor saying, Bojan, way ahead of you, bud. Excellent, guys. Smoke one for me. Bojack Harkness, nice. Yeah. What is the no gene, if I'm hearing correctly? Frank, we're going way, way ahead in the Dune series. This is to do with the God Emperor. No technology, if you like. We've sort of described it. The God Emperor later on breeds the Atreides. It's a I don't know if you've read that far ahead, Frank. I don't know if I want to spoil it or not for you. No technology, no genes, no ships, no globes, all of this stuff. Ultimately, the God Emperor's goal is to breed human beings that have this no gene. What it means is that they can't be seen by people with prescient abilities, essentially. And it's something that we've only really, I never noticed it. This is reading it this time, and it's an argument that I made the other, what chapter? It's an argument I made for chapter 48. If you have a wee look at that, I tried to present an argument that is what Casimir Fenring is, that he's got this no gene. It's why Paul can't see him. It's why Alia can't see him. It's why no one can see this guy. And his furtiveness, it's to do with him being a genetic eunuch. And so we made a wee case for this in chapter 48, I think. And he's the one guy that can nail Paul to the wall, basically. And I sometimes I think of him as in different ways, but he's incredibly interesting. And if it's a thing that's left open, I think, but if the God Emperor needs to breed this gene, it's him that has it. And we don't know what happens to him. And we don't know what happens to Margot Fenring, and we don't know what happens to Margot's daughter by Fade Routha Harkonnen. Ultimately, but 4 books down into this series, the no gene becomes a hugely important thing for the whole series, really. And it's to do with how mankind will survive, how humanity will survive the Kralazek, this typhoon struggle, you know. But there we go. So if that's of any help, but it's a thing to do with it's not really picked up on until God Emperor of Dune, Frank. Which is a cracking book. Goodness gracious, that's going to be a piece of work, isn't it? But there we go, folks. If anyone else has got any wee questions about the terminology of the Imperium, if there's anything else in it, as I said, I kind of was going to go through it. I've had a wee flick through it to see. We might have missed a couple of wee things, but there's nothing really, anything that's been quite odd, or in terms of language. I think we've pretty much covered it. I've been doing words in each chapter as we go, you know. So just to show you all, I suppose, there we go. The first notebook here is a lot thicker, but this is what we've done, and this is all of you guys too, by the way. Your comments have gone in here. Your anything, if you've said something to me in the course of this is what we've got. Oh goodness, better wait for this. There we go. Have I got them the wrong way around? June. There we go. 1, 2, 4 very thick notebooks. And that's kind of what they're like. And we have, it just occurred to me, going along with my copy of the book, this is a completely annotated copy of Dune. You know, and it's been fascinating. It's kind of, they're almost scripts, if you like, that I would write the stuff out and then use this to kind of run the program with, if you like. But goodness gracious me, thank you so much. This is all down to you guys as well. It really are your huge contributors to this. We've had emails, letters, comments on the night, little things I've missed, whether I've been tired or knackered. It's taken a fair amount of work, folks, and it's meant a lot to me, to be honest with you. And it kind of reminded me a bit of when I was doing my PhD and I had to put all this on hold to go and care for my mother as she died. And then while I was doing this, I had to put this all on hold while I go care for my father. It's taken a fair bit of effort to get here. And I'm very happy with the result. And I just want to say to you all, thank you so much, genuinely from the bottom of my heart. Couldn't have done this without you. You've been a fantastic audience. Absolutely brilliant. I don't really think of you sometimes as an audience. I think of you as my collaborators, to be honest with you. Our little Dune community that we have here on our little science fiction station, you know. And yeah, I'm happy to chat for about a few minutes yet, up to midnight, if you like, folks. So if anybody has any other wee questions or comments, fire away, and open up the floor. If you want to know anything or any wee questions, just let us know. Frank saying, looking forward to the future books. Thanks. Yeah, well, we're going to hit Dune Messiah, aren't we? Quite soon. Hopefully, I'm going to take a couple of weeks to sort a few things out, and then we'll get the first chapter prepped, and we'll get going. My hope is the one thing that's kind of I've not been altogether happy with, to be honest, is how much this has dominated my little science fiction station. So I'm going to try and find a wee way of working that as we go with the book club, that I'm not too sure how to do about it, but I'm going to try and work out a working week for myself. But I'd like to be producing videos and audiobooks one week and then do a book club the next, if I like, because there's two. It's my nature to be pedantic and tear a thing apart in detail. So it's not something that I can do quickly, but I might have a wee consideration of finding a different way of working or something, But it's I'm looking for June. I'm absolutely, and I have to say, as much as I said, will the book survive? In all honesty, it's not going to. It will. This book will start falling apart here. This is the one that I've annotated with, but it's not too bad. So the question is, I've always wanted to know, will the book survive? Because I have destroyed, believe it or not, quite a few copies of this book, not intentionally, bad glue or whatever. But I've got a lot of books that are thicker than Dune, and for different publishers, and for whatever reason, Dune's binding as a book seems to be pretty poor. And I can simply say that because they fall apart. I have thicker books that I've worked on and are absolutely fine, and worked on them in the same way, Brian Herbert's stories go into Fenring, but they're not worth reading. Oh, something? I'd rather. I've read way back in the time House Atreides, House of Harkonnen, House of Carino, Hunters of Dune, Sandworms of Dune. That was me. Interestingly enough, I would say that this is what Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson's books do to the Dune series, is that they create positive feedback problems. From a systems guy's point of view, and I don't consider them canon because they detract from the original work. That's the way I look at it. If you ask me about, say, someone like L. Sprague de Camp, canon and things like Conan, I go, yeah, not just Robert E. Howard, because there's an intent to be true to the original author's work and world, if you see what I mean. But at the same time, that's just my opinion, and I know plenty of people enjoy them, and I read to read, and some people love to stay in the same universe. The Star Wars universe has been so badly watered down. I really think it's lost its way, if you know what I mean. The Star Wars, rather than that traditional heroic cycle of, that it's actually based on, the monomyth and all this kind of thing, is simply now a narrative about perpetual war. I suppose the clue's in the name, but you kind of think, God, don't the people in the Star Wars universe deserve a bit of peace? Cynthia saying, so let me see, Bojack saying, what a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure always to have you guys here. I do enjoy this, Cynthia says, I've read the Dune book since I was a kid, but you taught me so many things in these last couple of years. Thank you so much. Thank you, Cynthia. It's a two-way street. I have learned an awful lot from you guys too. Frank saying, we'll have to head off in a sec. Thank you so much as always, Doc. The station is a tremendous gift. Has been a real blessing for me, especially through difficult periods of life. Thank you. It's been kind of the same thing for me, Frank, to be honest with you. And Joseph Smith, so happy to be here. Joseph, correct me if I'm wrong. Was this not your idea? I'm pretty sure it was, all the way back. So, it was indeed. Well, Joseph, I'll tell you what, to all of you, I'd like to dedicate this work to you all. I'd also like to dedicate it to my dad. But thanks, I wouldn't have done it, Joseph. It was your idea. I don't think it was maybe ended up quite being what you thought it would be. But I'm so pleased about the positive reactions to this. You even dropped me what's that? I can't read that with that funny little heart. There's a wee annoying symbol in the way here. Well, even dropped a fiver to bribe you, Lawson. Thank you for it. Yes. Thanks also, Joe. Yes. Look, thank you all. It's been an interesting thing. I suppose my career ultimately was I was heading down the I was a lecturer before I did my PhD. Oddly enough, I actually taught computer science. So I'm not a person who became a lecturer by doing a PhD. I ceased to become a lecturer by doing one, which is kind of weird. But my goal in life was kind of to teach this stuff, hopefully, and in this kind of way. It's the reason why I got bored working with computer systems, is that there was nothing really new. I would just teach the same rubbish week in, week out. Not much variation, a very ordered kind of thing, And so to me, being a person of many hats, I just decided I wanted to go back to literature. It was kind of where my head was in the ancient world. And the way I look at it is that every single one of us has a different opinion about a book, reads it a different way. A book is relative to each of us, isn't it? And we can miss things, we can see things. As I said to you guys this time, I've read these books in different ways. And it's for all of us who love the Dune books, and I know that a lot of you will probably come back to them more and more. You can do this. You can read it. Okay, I'm going to read it this way, but I'll focus this time on ecology. I'll focus this time on evolution. I'll focus on the feminist aspects. I'll focus on the psychological aspects. I'll focus on the mythological aspects. You could focus on the linguistic aspects. You can read this book in so many ways. It's incredible. And this time, I as much as I'd done that, I kind of wanted to tear through it as a wordsmith, if you like, this time, which I thought was the most broad way that we could look at it, rather than having a particular focus. But it is a book that can be read so many different ways, and it's even rewarded me this time. I think this is actually, I was going to say I read this book, I think this is 10th or 11th time. It occurred to me tonight that for each episode that I do, each chapter is read 3 times. I read the thing, write the thing, and then I actually read it out to you. So the problem for me is I've just read Dune 3 times in a row. All at once doing this. It's been 3 reads, not 1. So I think I've now read the thing 14 times, roughly 13 or 14, and I've lost track. But I life's too short for me, so I'm always happy to talk about this, and I have my notebooks anytime we want to go on about Dune. But for me, this is the last read. But I wouldn't say that about the rest of the books. But it is a wonderful book, and I've just spent a fair number of years of my life invested in it. And I suppose work becomes very personal, this kind of thing. But this was a little dream for me. It's a bit like doing the audiobooks. It's something I always wanted to do in my life, a kind of childhood dream. My career fell to pieces when I became a carer. I've only just ceased becoming a carer. Became a full-time carer for 13 years, much to the detriment of myself. But at the same time, it was just things like careers don't matter, to be honest with you. And I wouldn't have. I chose to do all that. It wasn't kind of forced upon me. It was my choice. But my God, is that damaging to your life? But it has been kind of my dream to teach this stuff, to do what we're doing here, and interact with students, and well, not just people, who had a love of it, and I think when you get something like this going, I think it's fantastic. I couldn't be more delighted, to be honest with you. It's been emotional, folks. Well, listen, I'm going to wrap up here for tonight. I will see you all very soon. I might pop up let's do a little sci-fi chat, because possibly before we get that. But I hope to drop some work for you soon, actually. And the other side of this is that I'm thinking about doing some Dune work, to be honest with you, because we've been wiped out of the completely of the YouTube search algorithms, and I understand why. But we're going to do. I'm possibly thinking of doing a couple of videos on Dune, from the notes that we've taken. One was I'm basically going to do. I think I'll be doing everything wrong with Denis Villeneuve's Dune in terms of what's detracted from the story, something like that. But we're also going to. Oh, you want to know that? All right, I forgot about that. Sorry, guys. Thanks, Doug. Okay. What about the London traffic? Okay, Connor, I'll tell you. Sorry, I'll hang on a wee minute, folks. Let me just pour some fluids here. Well, once upon a time, things like I don't know. It's a thing that you ever get blamed for something you didn't do. It happens to me a lot for some reason. People take a particular nasty turn towards me. They just don't like me. So once upon a time, I was a student, classic student in university, sitting in the bar with a few friends, minding my own business. And this Northern Irish girl, Catholic girl, came up to me and assaulted me in the bar twice, slapped me as hard as she could in the face. Uh, and basically, this was quite a hard wee sort of time in my life, if you like. But what happened was that she accused me of doing something which had destroyed somebody's relationship. And I had no idea what the hell she was talking about. She hit me as hard as she could with her. I would actually quite happily name her, but um, I suppose it's kind of how Protestants and Catholics treat someone like me, and the sectarian nature of people from this country. But basically, she decided that I was some sort of scumbag, had done all this, hit me as hard as she could in the face. And I went, what's that for? And she said, well, you know what it's for. And then she hit me again as hard as she could in the face, at which point I told her if she touched me again, I'd break her neck, in front of the bar. So then at this point, she basically got every man in the bar to threaten me. And I went, fair enough. I had no idea what she was talking about. And I left. I went home. And I was living in student accommodation with 4 other chaps at the time. This girl lived in her name was Katrina. She lived in a student house not too far from me, and I would have been friendly with the people in this house. And basically, whatever she did, she started going around and saying this, and I still to this day don't know what happened. And one by one, people kept started coming to my house to have a go at me, to the point where I thought they were coming to assault me too. Whatever had been done seemed to be quite bad, apparently. And I had no idea what she was. So for a week, basically, all this woman destroyed every relationship I had in London. I watched all my friends turn on me, threaten me, do all this kind of nonsense. And I'm not a sort of person that you should threaten lightly. There's something else a Protestant did to me in London, which nearly ended up with 3 people dead. And it was very much an IRA kind of thing. But anyway, what happened was this. So I was basically ostracized out of the student community. All my friends turned on me, stuck knives in my back, blamed me for this. Nobody would tell me what had been said. One of my flatmates was away on holiday that week. Whenever he came back, and he was English, he basically went, what's going on with Russ? What's happened? Why is everybody doing this, that, the other? And I basically told him what had happened, and he laughed. And he says, that was me. I did that. It wasn't you. And I said, well, what? And I had no idea what, still no idea. But it was him that had said it, not me. So I'd asked him to go around and kind of let them know that I've been assaulted. I should have had her arrested, to be honest. And you'll hear about the karma from this one in a minute. It's pretty bad. So my mate did it, basically. It wasn't anything to do with me. And this girl never came up to me, and she wouldn't apologize to me. She refused to apologize to me. And all of her friends kind of realized that they treated me like shit. I've been threatened by people, physically. And it taught me a lot about the people over there, I suppose. And I wasn't happy about it. I don't like people making up stuff about me. I'm happy to own my own shit. So what happened was that opportunity is a thing that I'll take advantage of. And I was heading back with the same person one night from a drink in London, and another guy. And we got called the demigods for this. But so what we were doing is we were heading towards a place. If anybody knows Twickenham Rugby Stadium in London, Twickenham Rugby Stadium is not in Twickenham. It's actually next to a little village called Whitton. And there's a major road. You can look this up on a map. One of the major transit routes through London is called the Great Chertsey Road, which Twickenham Rugby Ground is just off it. And what happens is that you have a little village called Whitton, and I used to live there, and so did these people. And as you come in from the Great Chertsey Road down to Twickenham Rugby Stadium, you hit a series of little roundabouts. And and they're around the village basically. And what the police had done was left thousands and thousands of traffic cones, no entry signs, direction signs, reroute signs, and diversion signs, all sitting there in the middle of the night. And me and I just went, revenge, here it comes. Well, teach a lesson. So what we did was we blocked off all of the roundabouts. This is my idea, and created what you call a positive feedback loop, so that you could drive into Witten, but you couldn't drive out of it. So each roundabout, because the police had left all of these signs there, what we did was we diverted the person to the next roundabout, and each roundabout directed a person to the next one. So what it meant was that we created it that you could drive in to Witten, but into Twickenham Witten, but you couldn't drive out. And that's what's called a positive feedback loop. But it didn't end there. I then took a whole set of these traffic cones and surrounded her house with them in the dark of night, because I'm a very nocturnal creature. And then I went home to bed. And my understanding is, I didn't hear about traffic chaos. It was there was a big rugby match that day in Twickenham, and it caused traffic chaos all over London, which was eventually sorted. I actually had to get my bus to the university that day. Ended up having to get off the bus because it wasn't moving anywhere, and walk there. But the interesting thing was that, of course, what we did was we created a path to their house and surrounded it with traffic cones, and the police followed that path, and they're all druggies, So the cops surrounded her house, and they had a lot of explaining to do, and the police thought that they did it. And of course, it caused all sorts of bother, and that was my little bit of saying up to them later on. They said, "You did that. We nearly got arrested." Yeah. And my only response is, it's not very nice to be accused of something you didn't do, isn't it? And just looked at them like that. You consider yourself lucky. And that is an example, folks, of that's a system. It's a road system. And the police gave me everything I had, and it was simply an opportune moment to create absolute chaos and send all the cops to her house. Years later, by the way, just if you want, and that girl, I did it because she didn't apologize. Her dad was she used to describe her father as the top Catholic lawyer in Ireland. By the way, I've been a guest in her house, etc. Years later, and I don't hold a grudge. It was, you got taught a lesson. Don't ever do that to me again. And it was a fun lesson, if you see what I mean. Nobody got hurt. That's why I don't do revenge, if you know what I mean. I like to throw people's behavior back on them, but with how would I call it? Hyperbolic overreaction. I'm way over the top, Many years later, she broke her neck in an accident in down south in Ireland, and had to be airlifted out to the where would it have been, City Hospital in Belfast, I think. I had to get another. She was okay, but a lot of her friends had to come over from England to visit her, and they ended up sort of staying with me, and I got phone calls and, can you take us up to see her? So she wasn't too happy with the fact that I was bringing her friends up to see her at the hospital. She still, I don't know, she just had a hatred of me. And I didn't take any pleasure in the fact that she'd broken her neck, and I'd said, I hope you get better and stuff like that. It was a long time. But to have someone hate you and despise you, and it's part of the time where I turned against all Northern Irish people and just had enough. And the other one was that a Protestant girl that used to brought two IRA guys into my house to try and kill me, and she was the girl I used to live with, and turned out they were fake, if you know what I mean. Young people pretending to be in the IRA, this nonsense. They came into my house basically. She went, there he is, and they went, the IRA, you fucking, because my dad was in the police. At which point I thought they were there to kill me, and fortunately for them, I was brought up that if there's a piece of like that in your house, they're there to kill you, so kill them first. Unfortunately, my dad actually taught me always to have a bit of prudence in such matters. So I basically had a weapon on me at that time, and basically said to them that I was going to kill them both right now in this room if they were real IRA people. Or are you just pretending? Are you just a pair of little shits pretending to be to try and shag this girl here tonight. And that's exactly what they were. So they shot themselves collectively, and I basically I told them that I ended up reporting the whole lot of them through to the RUC. But that's Protestants and Catholics, and that's there you go. There's something about a person like me that they just can't stand. And the real hard thing for me is that they destroyed every relationship I pretty much had. That girl, you know, 2023, all these years, never got an apology once. You know, but it's London's a shoddy town. I didn't like living there, to be honest with you, Connor. I lived in Twickenham and all the wee satellites around there. Excuse me. So Twickenham, Teddington, Whitton, Hampton Wick, places like that, you know, Hounslow as well. I lived all around that part of southwest London for about 5 years, you know. But yeah, the sectarian, you know, people, they just, I don't know, it's the troubles were still going on at the time. There's an even worse one, Connor, I suppose, is that I worked in a bar called the Railway Tavern, which is just next, it's between Whitton and Kingston, just next to Kingston Bridge, Kingston upon Thames. And the guy that used to own that was a guy called Michael Jordan, would you believe? And he's meant to be Irish, and his wife was Irish, but he was meant to be Irish. And someone came in, I worked there for a wee while, and the whole bar turned on me one night. Someone came in and told him that my dad was in the RUC. And he just kind of, oh, you scum, you filth, you know, don't you fucking dare, this kind of thing. And do you know what I figured out about him one day? They sat and gave me grief, and my dad's job's his job, and he's not a bad man, none of your business, and you know nothing about him, and you know nothing about me. I found out that he was English and put on a fake Irish accent. And you see, the minute I found out that he was English, oh, did I go for him. I went and I put him against the wall and I bollocked him something in front of his whole bar. He didn't give a shit. He was an alcoholic, you know. But it's yeah, the troubles followed me to London. The troubles, you'll hear my definition. The troubles are not a what or where, they're a who. And the other one was I nearly got lynched, would you believe, for one of the bombs in London. In a bar called the Wall Degree of Arms in Twickenham, which was to do with one of the bombs that had gone off in London. You'll like this one, guys, because I nearly got lynched for it. A girl that was with me, that's your lot, isn't it? And the whole bar just went, and some friends basically had to protect me, and I had to get out of that bar. But it was a so-called friend that set them on me, if you like. And the really interesting thing is, you want to know something? My dad arrested that bomber years before he set that bomb off. And my dad had him in custody. And I've actually got his notebooks to prove it. There you go. Evil genius. I don't know. I did that Dungeons and Dragons test recently, Carlos, on what's your alignment. I think it says I'm chaotic neutral, if you have to go with it. But it's yeah. To teach people a lesson like that, I think that the response should be hyperbolic always. You know, I figured that you were from Northern Ireland, Quinn. I says, I'm from Northern Ireland too. I decided to move to Paris instead of London or Dublin. Very good. I've lived in Paris for about a month. Number 3, Rue de Louvre. Very, very expensive. Penthouse above the, yeah. Paris is all right. I don't like the food. And the people are a bit rude, but I used to go out with a French girl from Paris for a few years back there. London was okay, I thought. Southwest London's kind of, I don't know, but it's a very impersonal place, you know. But this, yeah, that's my little, that's my little chaos story, if you like. But it is no harm done at the end of the day, if you see what I mean. Pardon me. But it happened because I got assaulted by a girl and accused of something I didn't do, and I just thought that she should understand what that felt like, but I didn't. I hit her back. I don't do the thing. As much as I said to her I'd break her neck if she hit me again, that was to make sure that she didn't hit me again. But I don't do violence at all. You know, I can be very violent with my language, and I have a level of aggression, and I can be quite intimidating to people, but I can embiggen myself, if you like, and I can make myself very big and very scary. And it's not really me. You know, it's not me at all. I'm a peace and love guy, if you know what I mean, and would rather sit and have a chat with anybody rather than fight them any day of the week. You know, evil genius. Yeah, it was a clever thing, though, wasn't it? But it's understanding a system and how to block that. So it's positive feedback. Roads are a system. It's something I kind of learned from my dad because in Northern Ireland, whenever they want to do a lock on a town, they'll do what the police do, what's called an octopus. That means that they'll block off 8 key roads, 8 for the octopus, if you see what I mean, into any town to try and catch bombers or this kind of thing. It has a fatal flaw in it that if you're ever aware that they're doing this, you simply park your car, get in a taxi, and come back for your vehicle the next day. You know, I don't feel safe as an Ulsterman in London. London has a large Irish community. The largest ethnic minority in London is the Irish. I think approximately 50% of all of them have been checked by the cops at some point, you know. But I used to get pulled. I used to get stopped at Heathrow Airport all the time because of the way I look. And I used to take the piss out of the MI5 and British security guys there because I know how they dress and things. I know a lot about them. I can tell a cop by his shoes in this country. And I actually saved a friend from getting arrested one night from an undercover cop. And I just went, "You're a policeman," straight to the guy. My friend was a bit of a cannabis dealer at the time, and the guy was. I just walked up to him and says, "You're a cop, aren't you?" And the guy just went, "Hey, this guy's a cop. You know, everybody, this guy's a cop. Look at his shoes. What sort of cop are you?" "My dad's a cop," like that, trying to be friendly, but let everyone in the bar know undercover cop. And you can generally tell policemen by their shoes, you know. Very Ken Kesey or Robert Anson Wilson kind of revenge. I think of it very much, Colin, as very much a Russell Sloan type thing. And I don't consider it revenge, if you know what I mean. I consider it teaching a personal lesson so that they can have empathy. If I wanted to take revenge, I'd kill them, you know. And I'm not a killer. So, but revenge is, what does it they say? For those who want to seek revenge, first dig 2 graves. It's not worth it, and it never has been. But just the opportunity comes to teach somebody a lesson. Everything's a teachable moment to me, you know. But revenge is pointless. It was just the thing I did. It was actually a bit of fun to me, just to see. I'm sure it wasn't too fun to them, but I did. No, I didn't physically assault anyone or ruin anybody's reputations or any of that stuff, you know. Me too. The cops caught me. And cops are very. I get mistaken for a cop a lot. I get mistaken for all sorts of things. I don't know. It's you know, it's I usually wear glasses, you know, and stuff like that. But that's kind of me there. You know, I have a bit of a stare on me, if you know what I mean. And depending on, you know, how I look, these are my other glasses. You know, I don't think I'm intimidating at all, but I've been told otherwise. You know. But generally, if you meet me on the street, this is what I look like here, you know. And I can't see that screen because these are super blackout sunglasses. They're a bit like Zaphod Beeblebroxes. These are as dark as you can legally get to drive with in this country, you know. Yeah. Lessons, yeah. Some lessons are hard in life. That one was for me not to trust friends, you know. And it's a lesson that I tried to, I suppose, change over life. You've got to try and trust people, to be honest with you, make friends. It's partly to do with why I'm a misanthrope. And at that point, I'm not a Protestant or a Catholic, never have been, and wasn't raised in any denomination here. It's not the same for my brother. My father wouldn't really have a faith, but would be raised Protestant. My mother would have been Catholic. But no, when the Troubles were on, it was pretty dangerous in Northern Ireland, or for it to be a Northern Irish citizen in London. I thought you could easily get your head kicked in. You know, there were some places that weren't so hot, but that it's a few examples. All of that's totally true. You couldn't make that shit up, could you? You know, but that's a system thing. Really, that's how I thought of it. Let's create positive feedback. A lot of people, because of the word positive, they think positive feedback is a good thing. It's the opposite. Positive feedback, and if you can block a system, it'll destroy it utterly. Chaos. But it's an example we were talking about earlier of a human mucking with a system, and it's just the roads. But the police gave me everything I needed to do. And it was an opportune thing, and they never ever left those signs there again because I had to walk home that way all the time, you know. But it was an interesting time in my life. I used to live opposite Neller Hall, which is the Army's music academy in Witten. You know, it's a funny wee place. You know. Well, listen, folks, there you go. I managed to. Thanks for reminding me. There you go. That's my anecdote of how to cause chaos. It's interesting. You get all these people here trying to cause a bit of chaos in London, and they don't understand how to do it really. But they go to the centre of London to do it. Things fall apart, if you know what I mean. But it's the edges. It's where we're talking about the bottom of the system to make up the wreck. You want to mess with London, you do it on the outskirts. And the road system's the way to do it. It's easy to bring London to a standstill, I think, if you've got some signs. And there you go. As I said, I was told about it on the radio. I didn't hear it myself, and I didn't see it anywhere else. But it was a long, long time ago in the 90s, and it was me. I did it. There you go. I've done plenty of other things like that, but not too often, if you like. I tend not to. I said the housing executive thing over here, that was another example of me absolutely wrecking things, teaching people lessons, you know. But there you go. But listen, folks, I'm going to wrap up. A little anecdote at the end of our Dune book club. For those that are still here, thank you so much. I'll try to be back very soon, actually, hopefully. And in terms of, I suppose there's other things, but in terms of Twitter, for example, which is my only really other, I think I'll be coming off Twitter soon. Because up until recent, it's just, I just see too many people being murdered on it every day. It's horrific. Even before this stuff with Israel and Hamas, you know, we're basically seeing Americans kill each other every day. It's horrific, you know. But sorry, that's not a good note to end on. Yes, I will be coming off Twitter soon, so I'm kind of looking maybe to outreach to a few people on there to get them to stay in touch, if you like. And I don't really know if there's any kind of social media platform that is safe or friendly, you know. But anyway, it's been a good night for me tonight, folks. I have to say, I want to end on a positive note. I'm just really delighted to hear that Chaya was okay. It was a real concern for me. Someone who's a part of our little community here. So to get through this, to hear from her okay, know that she's all safe and well, has been a real delight and a relief. So thank you all so much for your input. I will see you real soon. I might be back next week. Actually, we'll do a general sci-fi chat and just make it something open, because I think we do talk a lot. We go all over the place in this thing, you know, and it is fun. Thank you so much, everyone. Again, can't say it enough, I suppose, but I will say good night. Look after yourselves, no matter where you are. Be safe. Take care, and I'll see you all real soon. Thank you again. Good night. Do, 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 do.